What happens when saving a stranger's life means losing everything you've built? When a single act of courage drags you back into the world you fled? Tonight, we're diving into a story about a woman who tried to disappear, and the moment that made her visible again. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The wine glass caught the light like a threat. Lena Carter stood 6 feet away, silver tray balanced on her forearm, watching condensation bead down crystal she couldn't afford to replace if she broke it. Table 7. The corner booth. 3 men in suits that cost more than her monthly rent, discussing numbers that would have made her former colleagues salivate. She wasn't supposed to listen, wasn't supposed to exist beyond the careful choreography of refilling water glasses and clearing plates. That was the agreement she'd made with herself 3 years ago. Be nobody, see nothing, survive. The Meridian Club didn't hire people like her, or rather, people like who she used to be. They hired ghosts, staff who understood that discretion wasn't just expected, it was the entire job description. Politicians met their donors here. CEOs carved up companies over dessert. And the waitstaff? They were furniture that occasionally brought food. Lena had gotten good at being furniture. She moved through this dining room with the practiced invisibility of someone who'd studied the art of not being seen. Low heels that didn't click. Muted makeup. Hair pulled back tight enough to give her a headache by hour 3 of every shift. The uniform helped. Black slacks, white shirt, vest that somehow made everyone wearing it look interchangeable. Anonymous. Exactly what she needed. "Excuse me?" The voice came from table 7. Lena turned, professional smile already in place, and met the eyes of Adrian Voss. She'd recognized him the moment he walked in. Of course. You didn't work at the Meridian without learning to identify power when it walked through the door. Voss Industries, biotech, defense contracts. The kind of portfolio that made people either very rich or very nervous, depending on which side of his decisions they landed on. He was younger than she'd expected from the photos, maybe 40, with the kind of face that photographs turned sharp and intimidating, but in person just looked tired. Good suit, expensive watch. The slight tremor in his left hand that he tried to hide by keeping it flat on the table. She knew that tremor, recognized it. Her stomach tightened, but she kept her face neutral. "Yes, sir? How can I help you?" "The Chateau Margaux. You're familiar with it." "Of course." She wasn't. She'd memorized the wine list her second week, because that's what you did when you were building a new identity from scratch. Every detail mattered. Every gap in knowledge was a potential crack in the foundation. "I'd like a bottle. The 2009, if you have it." "I'll check with our sommelier." She turned to go, but his companion, an older man with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes, spoke up. "Actually, we've already arranged for a specific bottle. Should be in the private reserve. Ask for Marcus. He'll know which one." Something in his tone made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. Too casual, too specific. "Of course," she said again, and walked toward the kitchen with steps that wanted to speed up, but didn't. The kitchen was controlled chaos, as always. Line cooks shouting orders, dishes clattering, the sous chef having what looked like a quiet breakdown near the walk-in freezer. Lena navigated through it to the narrow hallway that led to the wine cellar, where Marcus Pelletier presided over bottles that cost more than cars. He was there, naturally. Marcus was always there. 60-something, French accent that got thicker when he was annoyed, which was often. He looked up from his inventory sheet with the expression of a man deeply inconvenienced by her existence. "Table 7, Lena said. "Chateau Margaux, 2009. They said you'd know which bottle." Something flickered across his face. "Ah, yes, the special reserve." He disappeared into the temperature-controlled vault, and Lena waited, fighting the urge to check her phone. Her daughter would be asleep by now. Mrs. Kim across the hall always put Emma to bed by 8:30, read her the same 3 stories in rotation, left the nightlight on. It was fine. Everything was fine. Marcus emerged with a bottle cradled like an infant. "This one. Handle it carefully." She took it, noting the weight, the label, the vintage. Perfect. Except the seal was wrong. It was subtle. The kind of thing you wouldn't notice unless you'd spent years studying how things were supposed to look, how molecules were supposed to bond, how security measures were supposed to work. The wax around the cork had been disturbed. Recently. The color was slightly off, the texture too smooth. Someone had opened this bottle and resealed it. Her pulse kicked up, but her hand stayed steady. Thank you. Remember, breathe before you pour, 15 minutes minimum. She nodded, already walking back through the kitchen, mind racing. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe someone had quality checked it. Maybe Marcus himself had opened it to verify the vintage, though that seemed unlikely given how he treated every bottle like a religious artifact. Or maybe, no. She shut down that line of thinking before it could fully form. She wasn't that person anymore. Didn't think like that anymore. Her job was to serve wine, not analyze its molecular composition for potential contaminants. She set the bottle on her station to breathe, then busied herself with Table 12's dessert order, forced herself to focus on the immediate, the mundane. Creme brulee, chocolate torte, coffee service. Normal things, safe things. 15 minutes felt like an hour. When she finally returned to Table 7 with the bottle and 3 glasses, the conversation had shifted to something about clinical trials. Adrian Voss was leaning back, that tremor in his hand more pronounced now. The silver-haired man was talking, gesturing with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. The third man at the table, younger, nervous energy, expensive suit that didn't quite fit right, wasn't talking at all, just watching Adrian with an intensity that made Lena's instincts scream. She presented the bottle. The Chateau Margaux 2009, gentlemen. Excellent, the silver-haired man said. Pour for Mr. Voss first, please. Standard protocol. She uncorked the bottle, the seal breaking too easily, confirming what she'd already suspected, and began to pour. The wine hit the glass, dark and rich. In the low light of the Meridian's dining room, it looked perfect. But Lena had spent 7 years of her life learning to see what other people missed. The viscosity was wrong, just slightly. The way it caught the light, the surface tension as it settled in the glass. There was something in it. Her hand froze mid-pour. Adrian Voss looked up at her, one eyebrow raised. Problem? 1,000 calculations ran through her head in the space of a heartbeat. If she was wrong, she'd lose her job, lose the careful anonymity she'd built. If she was right and said nothing, she'd watch a man die and have to live with it. If she was right and spoke up, the silver-haired man was staring at her now, not curious, assessing. Emma's face flashed through her mind. 4 years old, gap-toothed smile, the way she insisted on wearing her princess dress over her pajamas, the life Lena had built for them here, precarious but real. All of it balanced on this moment. Sir, she said, voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system, I apologize, but I believe there may be an issue with this bottle. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. An issue? The silver-haired man repeated. His tone was pleasant, his eyes were not. The seal was compromised. I'm not comfortable serving it. She was already stepping back, already moving the glass away from Adrian's reach. Let me get you a fresh bottle. No charge, of course. That won't be necessary, the third man said, speaking for the first time. His voice was flat, controlled. The bottle is fine. I'm afraid I have to insist, and I'm afraid, the silver-haired man cut in, smile still in place, that you're overstepping. We selected this bottle specifically. Now pour the wine and let us enjoy our dinner. Adrian was watching her now, really watching, his gaze sharp despite the tremor and the fatigue. What kind of issue? She shouldn't. Every survival instinct she had was screaming at her to back down. Apologize, bring another bottle, forget this ever happened. But the viscosity, the surface tension, the way the light hit it wrong. The wine has been tampered with. Silence. Then the silver-haired man laughed. It was a practice sound designed to make her feel small. Tampered with? My dear, I think you've been watching too many movies. This is a private club, not a spy novel. Nevertheless, Mr. Voss, he continued, ignoring her completely now, I apologize for the confusion. Perhaps we should request a different server. But Adrian hadn't looked away from Lena. You're sure? She met his eyes. Thought about Emma. Thought about the woman she used to be. The scientist who dedicated her life to understanding exactly how compounds interacted with human biology. Thought about what it would cost to be that woman again, even for a moment. Yes, He nodded slowly, then pushed his chair back from the table. Then I think we should have this bottle tested. Marcus! The sommelier appeared as if summoned, concern etched on his face. Mr. Voss? This bottle, where exactly did it come from? The private reserve, sir. It was... Marcus paused, actually looking at the bottle for the first time. His expression shifted. This wasn't the bottle I selected. The nervous man at the table stood abruptly, hand moving toward his jacket. Lena didn't think. She'd spent 3 years learning not to think, not to react, not to be anything other than invisible. But some instincts ran deeper than fear. She dropped the bottle. It shattered spectacularly, wine spreading across the floor in a dark pool. The sound was enormous in the quiet dining room. Crystal on marble, liquid splash, every conversation stopping mid-word. And in the chaos of that moment, she saw the nervous man's hand emerge from his jacket empty, saw the flash of something in the silver-haired man's eyes that wasn't surprise, saw Adrian Voss looking at the spilled wine, then at her, with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I'm so sorry," she said, not sorry at all. "I'll clean this immediately." But she was already backing away, already moving toward the kitchen, already knowing with perfect clarity that she'd just destroyed everything she'd built. The club manager materialized beside her, face red. "My office. Now." She followed, mind still racing, trying to calculate the damage. Fired, certainly. But would they investigate? Would they ask questions? Would her carefully constructed background check hold up to scrutiny? Behind her, she heard Adrian Voss say, "Actually, I'd like to speak with her first." The manager stopped. "Mr. Voss, I assure you we'll handle this. I'd like to speak with her. Alone." There was no arguing with that tone. The manager's face went from red to purple, but he nodded stiffly and gestured to one of the private meeting rooms off the main dining area. Lena's pulse was thunder in her ears as she walked through the door. Adrian Voss followed, closing it behind them with a soft click that sounded like a cell door locking. He studied her for a long moment. The tremor in his hand was worse now, and he seemed to notice her noticing. He slipped his hand into his pocket. "You're not a waitress," he said finally. "I am now." "But you weren't always." It wasn't a question. That was a very specific observation to make about wine you've allegedly never studied. Lena said nothing. "The viscosity was wrong," he continued. "Surface tension. Those were your exact concerns, weren't they? Even if you didn't say them out loud." He moved closer and she fought the urge to step back. "Who are you?" "Nobody." "Try again." "Someone who's trying very hard to stay that way." He considered this. "You just saved my life." "You don't know that?" "I know enough." His eyes were sharp now, cutting through the fatigue. "I know that bottle was meant for me. I know someone went to considerable effort to get it onto that table. And I know that you, a waitress at an exclusive club who shouldn't have the training to recognize molecular contamination, not only spotted it, but risked your job to stop me from drinking it. I should go. You should tell me your real name." "I can't." "Can't or won't? Does it matter?" He smiled, but it was grim. "It's going to, because whoever poisoned that wine is going to want to know why it didn't work. And when they review the security footage and see you're the one who stopped it, there's no footage of the wine itself. I made sure of that." She regretted the words the instant they left her mouth. Adrian's expression shifted from curious to certain. "You knew where the cameras were, knew the blind spots, planned your reaction." He nodded slowly. "You're not just someone with scientific training. You're someone who's been hiding from something, someone who knows how to stay invisible." Lena felt the walls closing in. This was it. The moment her carefully constructed life collapsed. "Mr. Voss, call me Adrian. And before you try to leave, you should know that while we've been in here, my head of security has been reviewing footage from the wine cellar. Turns out the bottle swap happened 3 hours ago, during the afternoon shift change when staffing is minimal." He paused. "The person who did it knew the club's routines, knew Marcus's schedule, knew exactly when and how to make the switch. Inside job? Almost certainly. Which means we have a bigger problem than one poisoned bottle." He leaned against the door, effectively blocking her exit. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me who you really are and what you know about that compound. And I'm going to make sure that when this all goes sideways, and it will, You and whoever you're protecting are somewhere safe. I don't need your protection. Yes, you do. Because the man I was having dinner with, Dr. James Hawthorne, he's been my mentor for 20 years, taught me everything I know about biotech, and he just tried to kill me. The name hit Lena like a physical blow. James Hawthorne, she knew that name, knew his work, knew things about him that hadn't made it into any publication. Adrian saw her reaction. So you do know him. I know of him. And the compound? The one you recognized in about 3 seconds flat? Lena closed her eyes. Emma. She thought of Emma, asleep and safe and completely unaware that her mother's past was about to devour their present. It's called Neuraxon 7, she said quietly. It's not meant to kill. It's meant to track. Track what? Neurological pathways. It bonds to specific receptors in the brain, creating a signature that can be monitored remotely. We developed it for... She stopped. I developed it, years ago, for medical research, mapping disease progression in real time. But it can be weaponized. Everything can be weaponized if you're creative enough. Adrian was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, vulnerable. The tremor. You noticed it. Yes. How bad is it? She looked at him properly then, using the eyes she'd trained herself not to use anymore. Saw the slight asymmetry in his pupils, the way he favored his right side, the fatigue that went deeper than a few late nights. Without treatment? 6 months, maybe a year. He absorbed this without flinching. Hawthorne told me 2 years. He lied. Why would he? Adrian stopped, understanding blooming across his face. The tracker. He's monitoring the progression, studying it, using you as a live specimen. Lena felt sick. Adrian, if what you're telling me is true, if Hawthorne is behind this, then he's not trying to save you. He's trying to perfect the disease. That's insane. Is it? You said yourself he's your mentor. He knows your medical history, has access to your care, probably controls most of your treatment protocol. How long has he been managing your condition? 3 years? And in those 3 years, has it gotten better, stabilized? Or has it progressed in ways that seem almost methodical? The color drained from Adrian's face. There's a clinical trial, experimental treatment. He's been preparing me for it, said I was the perfect candidate. You're not a candidate, you're the control. Lena's mind was racing now, falling back into patterns of analysis she'd sworn off. He's been calibrating the disease progression, probably adjusting your medication to keep you in a specific range. The Neuraxon 7 would let him monitor you remotely, make real-time adjustments. You're not his patient, Adrian. You're his research. The sound Adrian made was somewhere between a laugh and something darker. I built my company on his guidance, trusted him with everything. He's counting on that. Why are you telling me this? You said you wanted to stay invisible. This is the opposite of invisible. Lena thought about lying, about walking away, about protecting Emma and their small, careful life. But she'd already broken that wine bottle, already stepped into the light. Because I know what it's like to be used, to have your work twisted into something you never intended. She met his eyes. And because if Hawthorne has Neuraxon 7, he got it from somewhere, which means someone had access to research that was supposed to be destroyed. Meaning I'm not the only ghost from that project, and if Hawthorne is activating old assets... Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, heart stopping at the message on screen. Unknown number. We need to talk about Emma. Her hands went numb. What is it? Adrian asked. I have to go. She moved toward the door, but he didn't budge. Who's Emma? Move, now. Not until you tell me what's happening. She looked at him, this man she'd just met, this stranger whose life she'd saved and who was now standing between her and her daughter. Made a decision that would either save them both or destroy everything. Emma is my daughter. She's 4 years old, and someone just sent me a message about her using a number that shouldn't exist. Adrian's expression hardened. He pulled out his own phone, typed something quickly. Where is she? Home. With my neighbor. She's safe. Give me the address. I'm not giving you I have a security team 3 minutes from anywhere in this city. Give me the address or waste time arguing while whoever sent that message gets closer to your daughter. Lena's throat closed. She wanted to scream, to run, to somehow be in two places at once. But he was right. She rattled off the address, watching as he relayed it to someone on the other end. "Team is en route," he said. "Now we go." "We? You saved my life. Let me return the favor." He finally moved away from the door, pulling it open. "Besides, if Hawthorne has your daughter in his sights, then she's connected to the research somehow, which means both of you are targets now." They moved through the club's back corridors, past the kitchen where Lena had worked for 3 years without anyone knowing her real name, past the manager's office where she'd been called to be fired a dozen times for minor infractions and always talked her way out of it, past the life she'd built from nothing and was now abandoning completely. Adrian had a car waiting, black SUV, driver who didn't ask questions. Lena climbed in, phone clutched in her hand, willing it to ring, willing Mrs. Kim to call and say Emma was fine, was sleeping, was safe. The phone stayed silent. "Tell me about the research," Adrian said as they pulled into traffic. "All of it." So she did. Because what was the point of secrets now? 7 years ago, I was Dr. Lena Morrison, biochemist, specialized in neurological compounds. I was part of a classified research project, government-funded, completely off the books. The goal was to develop treatments for degenerative brain diseases, but the applications were broader. Memory enhancement, cognitive acceleration. We were pushing boundaries that most people didn't even know existed. And Neuraxin 7 was supposed to be a diagnostic tool, a way to track disease progression without invasive procedures. It worked, too well, because once you can track neural pathways, you can influence them. The military saw potential. The project shifted. I objected. She looked out the window at the city sliding past, all those lit windows hiding all those separate lives. I was removed from the team. Removed how? The kind where you sign papers and pretend the last 7 years of your life never happened. I was paid well for my silence. Given a new identity, technically. Fresh start. She laughed bitterly. But I didn't use their identity. Didn't trust it. Created my own. Became Lena Carter, widow, single mother, waitress. And Emma? Is real. My daughter. The only thing from my old life I kept. Does she know? She's 4. She knows I'm her mom and I love her and we read books before bed. That's all she needs to know. Adrian was quiet for a moment. The father? Dead. Actually dead, not fake dead. Car accident when I was 6 months pregnant. Before everything fell apart. Lena's voice was flat. Sometimes I think that's the only reason I'm still alive. They didn't see me as a threat, just another grieving widow trying to disappear. But Hawthorne found you. Apparently. Why now? What changed? That was the question, wasn't it? Lena had been invisible for 3 years. Perfect, boring, invisible. No red flags, no contact with her old life. She'd been so careful. Except 3 months ago, she said slowly, Emma got sick. Really sick. Fever, seizures, the hospital couldn't figure out what was wrong. They ran every test. Genetic screening, blood work, the full panel. Adrian swore softly. The genetic markers. From your research. Emma has a rare mutation, something I knew about but never reported because it wasn't relevant to the project. Or so I thought. Lena felt cold. But if Hawthorne is trying to perfect treatments based on my work, and if those treatments require specific genetic profiles, your daughter is a perfect match. The SUV pulled up to her apartment building, and Lana was out before it fully stopped. She ran to the entrance, Adrian close behind, and took the stairs 3 at a time. 2nd floor, 3rd door on the left, key already in her hand. The door was unlocked. She burst through, heart in her throat, calling Emma's name. The apartment was small, living room, kitchen, 1 bedroom they shared. It took 3 seconds to search every room. Empty. Mrs. Kim's apartment across the hall was also open. Also empty. Lena stood in her living room, Emma's toys scattered across the floor, a half-finished puzzle on the coffee table, and felt reality tilt sideways. No, she whispered. No, no, no! Adrian was on his phone again, talking in rapid, clipped tones. His security team was 4 minutes out. The police would take longer, would ask questions, would run her background and find holes. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. She's safe. For now. Come alone to the following address. Tell no one. You have 2 hours. Below it, a photo. Emma, asleep, curled up on an unfamiliar couch. Alive. Unharmed. For now. They have her, Lena said, voice breaking. They have my daughter. Adrian looked at the message, then at her. It's a trap. I don't care. Lena, my daughter is all I have. The only thing that matters. I don't care if it's a trap. I don't care what they want. I'm going to get her back. Not alone, you're not. The message said, I know what the message said, and I know Hawthorne. He's methodical, careful. Whatever he's planning, it's bigger than one scared mother walking into a warehouse. Adrian's jaw was set. You saved my life tonight. Let me help save hers. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to tell him to leave, to stay out of it, to let her handle this the way she'd handled everything for the past 3 years, alone and invisible. But invisible hadn't protected Emma. Alone hadn't kept them safe. What do you have in mind? She asked. Adrian smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. You know Hawthorne's research. I know his operations. Between us, we know what he wants and how he thinks. He held up his phone, showing the address from the message. And I know this building. It's one of my old facilities. Sold it to a shell company 2 years ago, but I still have the blueprints. You think he's there? Hawthorne? I think Emma is there, and I think whoever took her wants you to come alone because you're either the target or the bait. Either way, we're not playing by their rules. Lena looked around her apartment one more time. At the life she'd built, now in ruins. At the careful anonymity she'd cultivated, now shattered. At the woman she'd tried to stop being, reflected back at her in every choice she was about to make. I need to change, she said, and I need to stop at one place before we go. Where? Somewhere I swore I'd never go back to. But if we're doing this, if we're going after Hawthorne and whoever's working with him, she met Adrian's eyes. I need to become someone I tried to bury, and that person left some things behind that might just save my daughter's life. 20 minutes later, Lena stood in front of a storage unit on the outskirts of Chicago, key in hand. She hadn't been here since the day she'd moved everything that couldn't fit in her apartment, everything she couldn't quite bring herself to destroy, everything Dr. Lena Morrison had left behind. The unit door rolled up with a screech of metal. Inside, boxes, files, equipment she'd smuggled out before the project was shut down. Research she wasn't supposed to have, samples she'd preserved despite the burn order. And at the very back, in a locked case she'd hoped never to open again, the only remaining doses of something she'd created and then tried to forget. What is that? Adrian asked, watching her unlock the case. Lena pulled out a small vial, liquid inside glowing faintly blue in the dim light. Insurance, the kind that comes with side effects and moral implications. Does it work? Neuraxin 7 tracks neural pathways. This disrupts them, temporarily scrambles the signal. She looked at the vial, remembering the first time she'd synthesized it, remembering why. It was designed as a countermeasure, in case the tracking technology was used against us. Side effects? Headaches, nausea, temporary cognitive impairment, and if you dose wrong, she didn't finish. Will it help us get Emma back? That was the question. Would it? Or would it just make everything worse? Lena thought about her daughter, about the scared little girl who was probably awake by now, wondering where Mama was, about all the promises she'd made, to keep her safe, to protect her, to never let the past touch their present. She'd already broken those promises. Might as well make the breaking count for something. Yes, she said, and pocketed the vial. They drove across the city as midnight turned into morning, the address from the message guiding them to an industrial complex near the old rail yards. Empty. Quiet. The kind of place where screams wouldn't carry. Adrian's security team was already in position, invisible but present, watching, waiting. Last chance to do this smart, Adrian said. Let my people handle it. Your people don't know what they're dealing with. I do. Fair point. He handed her an earpiece. At least let us hear what's happening. She fitted it, checked her phone one more time. 90 minutes since the first message. No updates, no more photos. Ready? Adrian asked. Lena thought about saying no. Thought about all the ways this could go wrong. Thought about Emma's laugh. Her terrible singing voice, the way she demanded 3 more minutes every single bedtime. "No," she said honestly. "But let's go anyway." The building was exactly as Adrian had described. Old industrial, high ceilings, lots of space for equipment that was no longer there. The front entrance was unlocked. Of course it was. Lena pushed through, stepping into darkness punctuated by emergency lighting. Her footsteps echoed. Somewhere ahead, she heard voices. She followed the sound, every instinct screaming danger, every maternal impulse stronger than fear. Down a corridor, through a set of double doors, into what had once been a manufacturing floor and was now just empty space. Except it wasn't empty. Dr. James Hawthorne stood in the center of the room, silver hair perfect, smile in place. And beside him on that same couch from the photo, Emma slept on, peaceful and unaware. "Dr. Morrison," Hawthorne said warmly, like they were meeting for coffee instead of a kidnapping. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't come." Lena's eyes were locked on Emma. "Let her go." "All in good time. First, we should talk." "There's nothing to talk about." "Oh, I disagree. You see, I've spent the last 3 years looking for you. Your work, our work. It was left unfinished, incomplete. And then I realized why it failed." He gestured to Emma. "We were missing the final piece. She's 4 years old. She's a genetic miracle. The mutation you discovered but never reported. It's the key. The bridge between diagnostic and therapeutic applications." Hawthorne's eyes gleamed with the kind of fervor Lena recognized from her own research days, the kind that justified anything in the name of progress. "With her genetic profile, we can complete what we started." "No. You don't have a choice." "There's always a choice." Adrian's voice crackled in her ear. "Lena, we have a problem. More vehicles approaching. This was a setup." Of course it was. Lena had known it would be. Had counted on it, actually. "You brought friends," Hawthorne observed, looking past her to where Adrian was probably visible on whatever security feed he was monitoring. "Mr. Voss, how unexpected." "Really?" Lena kept her voice steady, kept moving slowly toward Emma. "You poison him, and you're surprised when he shows up?" "The Neurexon 7 wasn't poison. It was a gift, a way to save his life." Hawthorne sighed. "You always were too paranoid, Lena. Too quick to see conspiracy and collaboration. You were using him as a test subject. I was preparing him for the treatment he desperately needs. Treatment that requires genetic material we can only get from one source." He looked at Emma. "Your daughter." Lena was close enough now to see Emma's chest rise and fall. Sedated, probably. Safe for the moment. She pulled out the vial from her pocket. "You want genetic material? You want to complete the research? Fine. But not with her. With me." Hawthorne's expression shifted. "What is that?" "Neurexon 7 variant. Modified. I can synthesize what you need without Emma. I'm her mother. We share the mutation. Mine's just less stable." It was a complete lie. She had no idea if it would work. But she was betting Hawthorne's ego would make him curious enough to hesitate. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" She held up the vial. 3 years. You've been looking for me. 3 years of dead ends and false leads. And now I'm standing right here, offering you exactly what you want. My research, my expertise, my genetic material." She swallowed. "In exchange for my daughter walking out of here unharmed." Hawthorne studied her, calculating. Around them, the sound of vehicles grew louder. Adrian's team, or Hawthorne's backup. Maybe both. "Even if I agreed," Hawthorne said slowly, "you're in no position to negotiate. I have your daughter. I have resources you can't match. I have—" "A fundamental misunderstanding of what's happening here," Lena interrupted. "See, you assumed I came alone because I was desperate. You assumed I'd do anything to save Emma, including walking into a trap. And you are, doing both. True, but you assumed I was still the scared woman who ran 3 years ago, that I'd forgotten how to think like a scientist, how to plan." She smiled, and it felt like putting on an old skin. Familiar, dangerous. "You're not the only one who's been tracking people, James." His eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" "Adrian?" she said, knowing he could hear her through the earpiece. His voice came back, confident now, certain. "The Neurexon 7 in the wine wasn't going to kill me, but it did give off a signal. A very specific signal that my R&D team has been monitoring for the last 2 hours. Lena watched understanding dawn on Hawthorne's face. Every person who's been dosed with your tracker, and there are more than just Adrian, aren't there? Test subjects, research candidates, people you've been monitoring, they're all lighting up on sensors now, including the one you're wearing. Hawthorne's hand went to his wrist, to the watch that wasn't just a watch. You dosed yourself, Lena said, to prove it was safe, to show Adrian there was nothing to fear. Classic manipulation, but it means we know exactly where you are. And more importantly, she heard sirens in the distance. So do the federal agents who've been very interested in unsanctioned human testing. The building erupted into chaos. Doors burst open. Federal agents poured in, weapons drawn. Adrian's security team secured the perimeter. And through it all, Lena ran to Emma, scooped her up, held her daughter close enough to feel her heartbeat. Emma stirred, groggy. Mama? I'm here, baby. I'm here. Hawthorne was still talking, still trying to explain, justify, negotiate. But Lena wasn't listening anymore. She had Emma. That was all that mattered. Adrian appeared beside her, that tremor in his hand worse than ever. We need to go, now, before the questions start. I can't just... Yes, you can. There's a back exit. My car's waiting. I'll handle the feds. He looked at her, the stranger she'd met hours ago. This man whose life she'd saved and who'd returned the favor in ways she was only beginning to understand. But Lena, Dr. Morrison, whoever you decide to be next, we're not done. Hawthorne was working with people who still want what he was building, and your daughter is still the key. Then what do I do? You stop running, stop hiding, and you let me help you fight back. He handed her a card, my personal number. When you're ready to not be invisible anymore, call me. She took the card, Emma heavy in her arms, the weight of everything that had happened in the last 6 hours crushing and liberating all at once. And if I'm never ready? Adrian smiled tiredly. Then I guess I owe you a very expensive bottle of wine. The real kind. No poison. They separated then. Adrian to face the authorities with lawyers and explanations. Lena to slip out the back with her daughter, disappearing into the pre-dawn darkness like she'd done so many times before. But this time felt different. This time, she'd been seen. Emma was awake now, arms around Lena's neck, asking questions in that 4-year-old way that demanded honesty without understanding complexity. Where were we, Mama? Somewhere we're not going back to. Was it scary? Yes. Did you save me? Lena thought about the bottle she'd dropped, the truth she'd told, the person she'd become when Emma needed her most. We saved each other, sweetheart. Like in the stories? Exactly like in the stories. Except in the stories, this would be the end, the danger past, the villain defeated, the hero and her daughter walking into the sunset. But Lena knew better. She'd worked with men like Hawthorne before, knew that where there was one, there were others. Knew that Emma's genetic mutation wouldn't stop being valuable just because one attempt had been thwarted. Knew that invisibility was no longer an option. She looked at the card Adrian had given her, at the number that represented a choice. Keep running, keep hiding, keep trying to be nobody. Or stand up, fight back. Be Dr. Lena Morrison again, with all the danger and possibility that entailed. Emma had fallen back asleep against her shoulder, trusting completely that Mama would keep her safe. Lena pulled out her phone, typed a message to the number on the card. We need to talk, not about me, about what comes next. The response came quickly. Tomorrow. My office. Bring Emma. I know someone who can help keep her safe while we plan. Plan what? How to stop people like Hawthorne. How to make sure your research saves lives instead of destroying them. How to be who you are without apologizing for it. Lena looked down at her daughter, at the apartment key in her pocket for a home they couldn't return to, at the sunrise starting to paint the sky. She'd spent 3 years being invisible, being safe, being small. And in one night, she'd become visible, dangerous, and impossibly alive. Okay, she whispered to Emma, to herself, to whoever might be listening. Let's see what happens when I stop hiding. The city woke around them, full of people who would go about their normal lives, unaware that everything had changed, that the invisible woman who'd served them wine and cleared their plates was gone. And in her place stood someone much more interesting, someone ready to fight back. The problem with burning your old life down was that the ashes didn't just disappear. They followed you, stuck to your shoes, got tracked into every new place you tried to build. Lena discovered this at 6 in the morning, sitting in a hotel room she'd paid for in cash, watching Emma sleep on the bed while scrolling through news alerts on a burner phone Adrian had given her. The headlines were careful, vague. Federal investigation at industrial site. Biotech executive questioned in ongoing probe. Nothing about kidnapping, nothing about her, which meant someone was controlling the narrative. Her phone buzzed. Adrian's number. "You see the news?" he asked without preamble. "I see what they're letting people see. Hawthorne's out. Posted bail 2 hours ago. His lawyers are already spinning it as a misunderstanding. Competitive corporate espionage, they're calling it. Nothing about Emma. Nothing about the human testing." Lena's grip tightened on the phone. How is that possible? Money, connections, the kind of institutional protection you get when you've been in the game long enough. Adrian's voice was rough, like he hadn't slept. He probably hadn't. "There's more. The federal agents who showed up last night, half of them weren't federal, private security wearing the right badges, saying the right things. By the time actual authorities arrived, the scene was clean. They took evidence, everything that mattered. The Neurexon 7 samples, the monitoring equipment, even the couch Emma was on, gone. It's like it never happened." Lena looked at her daughter, still peaceful in sleep, unaware that the nightmare wasn't over. "So we have nothing. We have you, your testimony, your knowledge of the research," he paused. "And we have me, unfortunately. Hawthorne's not done with either of us." "What do you mean?" "The tracking compound he dosed me with? My team analyzed my blood work. It's not just monitoring me, it's changing me, accelerating the neurological breakdown." His laugh was bitter. "Turns out my mentor wasn't trying to cure me. He was trying to prove his treatment would work by making sure I got sick enough to need it." "That's evil?" "Yeah. Also genius, in a horrible way. He gets to play savior to the disease he's enhancing. Perfect controlled study." Adrian's voice dropped. "How long do I have?" "Really?" Lena closed her eyes, ran the calculations she'd been avoiding since she first saw his tremor. Without intervention, 3 months. Maybe less if the compound continues to accelerate. And with intervention? Depends on what kind. Traditional treatment won't work, not against something specifically engineered to resist it. You'd need something targeted, something that accounts for Hawthorne's modifications, something you could create. She stopped, started again. "I don't have a lab. I don't have resources. I don't even legally exist anymore." "But if you did?" The question hung there, heavy with implications. Lena thought about the samples she still had in storage, the research she'd preserved, the knowledge that lived in her head and nowhere else, because she'd made sure of that before she disappeared. "If I did," she said slowly, "I'd need to understand exactly what Hawthorne used. The full compound structure, delivery mechanism, interaction pathways. I'd need samples of your blood work over time, access to imaging equipment, and I'd need it yesterday because every hour we wait, the damage gets worse. Then it's a good thing I own a fully equipped biotech research facility." "You're not serious." 100% serious. Voss Industries has 3 labs in the Chicago area. 2 are operational, handling active projects. The third, he paused. The third was supposed to be my personal research space. I built it 2 years ago when I started getting sick, thought I might need to find my own answers. Never used it. It's been sitting empty, fully stocked, completely off the books. Why off the books? Because I didn't trust anyone. Turns out I was right not to. Another pause. "It's yours if you want it. No questions asked, no strings attached." "There are always strings." "Fair. Then here's the string. I need you to save my life. In exchange, I'll give you everything you need to protect Emma and finish what you started. Resources, security, a legal identity that'll actually hold up to scrutiny." His voice softened. "A chance to stop running." Emma stirred on the bed, making the little humming sound she always made when she was about to wake up. Lena watched her daughter's face, still so young, still so unaware of how complicated the world actually was. "I need to think about it." You have until tonight. Meet me at my office at 8. Bring Emma. I meant what I said about having someone who can help keep her safe. The call ended before Lena could ask what he meant by that. Emma's eyes opened, unfocused and confused. Mama? Right here, baby. Where are we? A hotel. We're on an adventure. Emma sat up, looking around the generic room with its bland art and stiff sheets. I don't like this adventure. I want to go home. Home. The apartment they couldn't return to. The life that no longer existed. Lena pulled Emma close, breathing in the scent of her daughter's hair, still using that strawberry shampoo she insisted on. I know. Me too. When can we go back? I don't know yet. Emma pulled away, studying Lena's face with the intensity only children managed. Are we in trouble? No, I promise. Then why do you look scared? Out of the mouths of 4-year-olds came the kind of honesty that cut straight through every lie adults told themselves. Lena was scared, terrified, actually. Not of Hawthorne or his resources, or the federal agents who weren't really federal. She was scared of the choice in front of her, scared of becoming Dr. Morrison again, scared of what it would cost them both. But more than that, she was scared of what would happen if she didn't. Sometimes being scared means you're about to do something important, Lena said finally. Like the first time you jumped off the diving board at the pool, remember? Emma nodded. I was really scared. But you did it anyway. And then it was fun. Will this be fun? Honestly, probably not. But it might be important. Emma considered this with the seriousness of someone deciding the fate of nations. Okay, can we have pancakes first? They found a diner 3 blocks away, the kind of place that served breakfast all day, and didn't ask questions about why a woman and a little girl were paying cash for a meal at 7 in the morning. Emma ordered chocolate chip pancakes and proceeded to eat exactly half before declaring herself full and launching into a detailed explanation of why dragons were better than unicorns. Lena let her talk, grateful for the normalcy of it. Let herself pretend, just for 20 minutes, that they were just a mother and daughter having breakfast. No conspiracies, no kidnappings, no impossible choices. Then her phone buzzed again. Unknown number, but not the same one from last night. The message was short. You have something we need, we have something you want. Check your email. Lena's stomach dropped. She didn't have an email anymore, hadn't had one in 3 years. Unless she pulled up the old account, the one from before. The one that should have been deleted, purged, scrubbed from existence. It was still there. And there was one new message sent 15 minutes ago. The subject line read, Regarding Dr. Lena Morrison. She opened it. Inside was a video file. Lena hesitated, looked at Emma still talking about dragons, then clicked play. The footage was grainy, clearly from a security camera. It showed the interior of her old apartment, her and Emma's apartment. Someone was inside, moving through the rooms with purpose, checking closets, rifling through drawers, looking for something. The timestamp showed yesterday, while she'd been at work, while Emma had been with Mrs. Kim. The video cut to a new angle. This one showed Mrs. Kim's apartment. Empty now, but the signs of a struggle were clear. Overturned chair, broken lamp. Lena's hands went numb. The email continued below the video. Mrs. Kim is fine, shaken, but unharmed. She's been relocated for her safety. The same people who took Emma last night have been watching you for months. They know about your daughter, they know about your research, and they know you're meeting with Adrian Voss tonight. Come alone or the next video will be much worse. We'll send you a location at 7 p.m. Mama, you're making that face again. Lena looked up. Emma was watching her with those 2 perceptive eyes. What face? The scared one. She forced a smile. Just work stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. You said lying was bad. You're right. I did say that. Lena put the phone face down on the table. I'm scared because some people are trying to make me do things I don't want to do. But I'm going to figure it out. By yourself? Maybe not. Maybe I'm going to ask for help this time. Emma nodded sagely, like this was the wisdom she'd been waiting for. Mr. Rogers says asking for help is brave. Mr. Rogers is right. They finished breakfast. Lena paid the check and they walked back to the hotel through streets filling with morning commuters. Normal people going to normal jobs, complaining about normal problems. Traffic. Weather. The coffee taking too long. Lena would have given anything to have those problems again. Back in the room, she called Adrian. "I need to move the meeting up," she said. "Now, this morning." What happened? She told him about the email, the video, the threat. He was quiet for a long moment. "They're escalating," he said finally. "Trying to isolate you. Classic intimidation. It's working." "Then we change the game. Come to my office now. I'll have my security team pick you up. No cars, no drivers. I'll take a cab." "Lena, if someone's watching, and they clearly are, then I need to look like I'm following their instructions. Scared. Alone. Exactly what they expect. Until I'm not alone anymore. But they can't know that until it's too late." She looked at Emma, now watching cartoons on the hotel TV with complete focus. "You said you had someone who could keep Emma safe. I need to know who." "Her name is Sarah Chen, former CIA, now runs a private security firm that specializes in protecting high-risk individuals and their families. She's the best in the business." "And you trust her?" "With my life? I've trusted her with my life, actually. 3 assassination attempts in the last 5 years. She stopped all of them." Lena absorbed this. The idea that Adrian's life was dangerous enough to require that level of protection. The realization that she was stepping into that same level of danger, dragging Emma with her. "Okay. Where?" He gave her an address, not his office, a private residence in Lincoln Park. "Sarah's home. She works from there. Has a secure room that's basically a bunker. Emma will be safer there than anywhere else in the city." "What do I tell her? My daughter, I mean. How do I explain, tell her the truth? Age-appropriate version, but the truth. Kids are tougher than we give them credit for." He paused. "My mother used to tell me that being scared was just your body getting ready to be brave. Maybe that helps." "Your mother sounds smart." "She was. Died when I was 12, but yeah, she was." His voice shifted, became businesslike again. "I'll text you Sarah's address. Get there by 9. We'll figure out the rest after Emma's secure." The cab ride to Lincoln Park took 40 minutes through morning traffic. Lena spent it trying to explain to Emma why they were going to stay with a stranger for a while. Emma, to her credit, took it remarkably well. Probably because Lena framed it as a special adventure where she'd get to play with new toys and meet a nice lady who had a dog. The dog was a fabrication, but Lena figured one more lie wouldn't hurt at this point. Sarah Chen's home was a brownstone that looked like every other brownstone on the block. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed security expert lives here, which was probably the point. Sarah answered the door herself. Mid-30s, athletic build, eyes that cataloged everything in a single glance. She looked at Lena, then Emma, then smiled. "You must be Emma. I'm Sarah. Your mom's told me a lot about you." Emma hid behind Lena's leg, suddenly shy. "Do you have a dog?" Sarah didn't miss a beat. "I don't, but my neighbor does. A golden retriever named Biscuit. He's very friendly. Maybe we can visit him later?" Emma perked up immediately. "Really? Really? Come on in. I made cookies." Just like that, Emma was won over. Sarah led them inside to a home that was warm and lived in, and completely normal, except for the subtle things Lena noticed. Reinforced windows, multiple deadbolts, the slight bulge at Sarah's hip that suggested a holster. Adrian was already there, sitting in the kitchen with coffee and looking like he hadn't slept in days. The tremor in his hand was worse. He tried to hide it when Emma came in, but Lena saw. "Emma, this is my friend Adrian," Lena said. "He's going to help us with our adventure." Emma studied him seriously. "You look tired." Adrian laughed. "I am tired. It's been a long couple of days." "You should take a nap. Mama says naps fix everything." "Your mama's probably right." Sarah showed Emma to a room that had clearly been prepared for a child. Books, toys, art supplies. "You can play here while your mom talks with Adrian for a bit. I'll be right outside. If you need anything, just call, okay?" Emma nodded, already reaching for a set of markers. Back in the kitchen, Sarah poured Lena coffee without asking and sat down across from her. "Adrian filled me in on the basics. Your daughter's in danger. Someone's using her as leverage. You need a safe place." That's the summary. The details matter. Who exactly are we protecting her from? Lena glanced at Adrian. He nodded slightly. Permission to tell the truth. So she did. All of it. The research, Hawthorne, the kidnapping, the email this morning. Sarah listened without interrupting, her expression unchanging, processing information like the professional she was. Okay, Sarah said when Lena finished. Here's what's going to happen. Emma stays here. This building has security that would make the Pentagon jealous. Windows are bullet resistant, doors are reinforced steel, and I have monitoring systems covering every approach. No one gets in without me knowing. For how long? As long as it takes. Days, weeks, whatever you need. Sarah's eyes were steady. I've protected senators, whistleblowers, people who've pissed off cartels and foreign governments. I can protect one 4-year-old from corporate mercenaries. They're not just mercenaries. Hawthorne has resources. So do I. And unlike Hawthorne, I don't have a problem getting my hands dirty. Sarah's smile was sharp. Let him try. It'll be educational. Adrian spoke up. The email said they'd send a location at 7 p.m. That's 10 hours from now. Which means we have 10 hours to prepare, Sarah said. They're expecting Lena to show up alone and scared. Instead, we give them that. But with backup, they won't see coming. I don't want Emma in the crossfire of whatever this becomes, Lena said. She won't be. I promise you that. Sarah leaned forward. But you need to understand something. These people took your daughter once. They'll try again. Running won't fix that. Hiding won't fix that. The only way to protect Emma long-term is to eliminate the threat. You mean kill Hawthorne? I mean stop him, permanently, however that needs to happen. Sarah didn't flinch from it. I'm not saying we go in guns blazing, but we need to be realistic about what we're dealing with. This isn't going to end with a strongly worded letter. Lena felt something cold settle in her chest. The realization that she'd crossed a line last night, and there was no going back. That saving Emma once wasn't enough. She'd have to keep saving her over and over until the threat was gone. What do you need from me? She asked. Everything you know about Hawthorne. His connections, his resources, his weaknesses, and I need you to be honest about something. Sarah's eyes were sharp. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to protect your daughter? Because if you're not, if you have lines you won't cross, I need to know now. The question hung in the air. Lena thought about Emma in the next room, drawing pictures and eating cookies, unaware that her mother was planning something that might destroy what was left of their old life. I'm willing, she said quietly. Whatever it takes. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression darkened. We've got a problem. Hawthorne just held a press conference. He's claiming he's the victim of corporate espionage. Says a disgruntled former employee has been stealing research and threatening his family. He's talking about me. He didn't name you, but he described someone matching your profile. Female scientist, worked on classified projects, disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Adrian looked up. He's building a narrative, making himself the victim so when you surface, because you will have to eventually, he can paint you as the villain. Sarah swore under her breath. Smart. Now, if anything happens to him, you're the obvious suspect. Can he prove any of it? Lena asked. He doesn't have to, just needs to create reasonable doubt. Make people question your credibility. Adrian set his phone down. But there's something else. He mentioned a breakthrough in treatment for degenerative neurological diseases. Said he's close to FDA approval for human trials. Lena's blood went cold. He can't be. The research wasn't anywhere near ready. He is if he's using Emma's genetic material to fast-track it. One sample from her would give him everything he needs to complete the compound. Adrian's jaw clenched. That's why he took her last night. Not to leverage you. To extract what he needed. But he didn't have her long enough, didn't he? She was sedated for at least 3 hours. That's plenty of time for a blood draw, tissue sample, whatever he needed. Sarah's expression was grim. And if he already has what he needs from Emma, then the threat changes. He's not trying to take her again. He's trying to silence anyone who knows what he did. The implication hit Lena like a physical blow. He's going to kill us. He's going to try, Sarah corrected, which is why we're not playing defense anymore. We're going on offense. Adrian stood up, pacing despite the visible effort it cost him. The lab I told you about. We need to get there today. If Hawthorne has samples from Emma, we need to analyze them. Figure out exactly what he's building. and we need to synthesize a counteragent before he can deploy whatever he's planning. That's weeks of work, Lena said. Maybe months. We don't have that kind of time. Then we cheat. Use his own research against him. You said you developed Neuraxon 7. You know its weaknesses. What kills it? Lena closed her eyes, pulling up research from years ago. Formulas and interactions she'd tried to forget. Targeted enzyme inhibitors. They break down the bonding agents that let Neuraxon attach to neural receptors. But the synthesis is complex. I'd need the original research notes, which were destroyed. And I'd need to test it, which means test subjects. Use me, Adrian said immediately. What? No. I'm already dosed, already dying. If your inhibitor works, it saves me. If it doesn't, he shrugged, then I'm no worse off than I am now. You could die faster. The interaction could accelerate the breakdown instead of stopping it. Then I die faster, but at least we'll know. He met her eyes. I'm not being noble. I'm being practical. You need data. I need treatment. We help each other. Sarah was watching this exchange with interest. You two just met last night and you're already discussing experimental medical procedures. That's either really stupid or really brave. Probably both, Lena admitted. But he's right. We need to move fast and I can't do this alone. Her phone buzzed. The unknown number again. The message read, change of plans. Bring the research. All of it. Everything you've been hiding. Tonight at 6 p.m. Alone. Or Emma's genetic material goes public along with your real identity. You'll both become lab rats for the highest bidder. Below it, an address. An old pharmaceutical plant on the south side, abandoned for years. They moved up the timeline, Lena said, showing the message to the others. 6 p.m. instead of 7. Sarah frowned. They're rattled. Probably saw Hawthorne's press conference and realized you might lawyer up. They're trying to force your hand before you can organize a defense. Or it's a trap and they're expecting me to bring backup, Lena countered. It's definitely a trap. Question is whether we spring it or create our own. Sarah pulled out her laptop, started typing rapidly. This address? I know it. Worked a case there 2 years ago. Multiple access points, lots of sight lines, perfect for an ambush. Perfect for our ambush or theirs? Could go either way. That's what makes it interesting. Sarah looked up. But if they're asking for all your research, that means they don't have it yet. Hawthorne might have samples from Emma, but he doesn't have your original notes, your synthesis methods, the foundation he'd need to actually make his treatment work. I destroyed those notes, Lena said. Did you? Adrian asked quietly. The question landed like an accusation. Lena looked away. I tried to. I burned the hard copies, wiped the drives, but you're a scientist, Sarah finished. You couldn't bring yourself to destroy knowledge. Not completely. Lena nodded slowly. There's a backup. Encrypted, stored offline, hidden. I told myself it was insurance, in case I ever needed to prove what I'd done, what they'd forced me to do, but really, she laughed bitterly. Really, I just couldn't let it go. Couldn't destroy years of work. Where is it? Adrian asked. Safety deposit box, bank in Evanston. I've been paying the fee from a dummy account for 3 years. Then that's our play, Sarah said. You go get the research. We bring it to the meet tonight, but we bring it on our terms, not theirs. They said to come alone. You will be alone, visibly. What they won't see is the support team I'll have positioned around the perimeter. Adrian's tech people monitoring communications, every angle covered. Sarah's eyes glinted. They want to trap you? Fine. We'll let them, right up until the moment we flip it. Lena wanted to argue. Wanted to say this was too risky, too dangerous, too likely to end with someone dead. But Emma was in the next room drawing pictures and unaware that her mother was planning a counter-ambush at an abandoned pharmaceutical plant. Whatever it takes. Okay, Lena said. Let's do it. The next 3 hours were a blur of preparation. Adrian left to mobilize his security team and get the lab ready. Sarah made calls to people Lena didn't ask about, arranging resources and backup. Lena spent the time with Emma, trying to memorize every detail. The way her daughter's tongue stuck out when she concentrated on coloring. The gap in her front teeth, the freckle behind her left ear, just in case tonight went wrong. At noon, Sarah drove Lena to the bank in Evanston. The deposit box was right where she'd left it, untouched in 3 years. Inside, a single USB drive labeled with random numbers that meant nothing to anyone but her. The entire foundation of Neuraxon 7. Every formula, every trial result, every mistake and breakthrough and dead end. Years of work condensed into 8 gigabytes. "You're sure about this?" Sarah asked as Lena pocketed the drive. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." They drove back to Lincoln Park in silence. Emma was napping when they arrived, curled up on Sarah's couch with a throw blanket. She looked so small, so fragile. "She'll be safe," Sarah said, reading Lena's expression. "I promise you that." "You can't promise that." "Not really." "You're right, I can't. But I can promise I'll die before I let anyone hurt her." Sarah's voice was matter-of-fact. "And I'm very hard to kill." Adrian arrived at 3, looking worse than he had that morning. The tremor had spread to both hands now, and he was having trouble focusing his eyes. The Neuraxon 7 was accelerating faster than Lena had calculated. "We need to get you to the lab," she said. "Now, before the meet." "No time. If we don't show tonight, if you collapse during the operation, it's over. We need to at least stabilize you." She turned to Sarah. "The lab Adrian mentioned, can we move up the timeline?" Sarah checked her watch. "It's tight, but yeah. I can have my team ready by 5. That gives you 2 hours at the lab before you need to be at the plant." 2 hours isn't enough. It's what we've got. Make it work." They took 2 cars. Sarah stayed with Emma while one of her associates, a man named Marcus, who looked like he ate nails for breakfast, drove Lena and Adrian to a nondescript office building in an industrial park outside the city. The lab was in the basement, 3 floors down, behind security doors that required both a key card and biometric scan. When Adrian unlocked it, Lena felt something catch in her chest. It was perfect. State-of-the-art equipment, fully stocked, everything she'd need and more. Like someone had reached into her brain and built her dream workspace. "You did this yourself?" she asked. "Had some help. But yeah, I designed it based on what I thought I'd need." Adrian settled into a chair, exhaustion pulling at him. "Never used it. Was always too sick or too busy or too convinced Hawthorne would fix me. Stupid." "Not stupid. Human." Lena powered up the equipment, her hands moving through startup sequences she hadn't performed in years, muscle memory taking over. "Okay, I'm going to need blood samples, and you're going to need to tell me everything about your symptoms. Don't leave anything out." For the next 90 minutes, Lena became Dr. Morrison again. It happened gradually, then all at once. The way she moved through the lab, the shorthand she fell into when explaining what she was doing, the focus that narrowed the world to just the problem in front of her and the solution she needed to find. Adrian watched her work, answering questions when she asked, staying quiet when she didn't. His blood samples showed exactly what she'd feared. The Neuraxon compound wasn't just tracking his neural pathways. It was rewriting them, creating new connections while destroying old ones. Accelerated neuroplasticity, weaponized. "This is brilliant," she said, hating herself for appreciating it. "Horrible, but brilliant. Hawthorne figured out how to trigger controlled neurological evolution. If he could direct it, actually steer the changes instead of just causing them, he'd have a treatment that could cure anything from Alzheimer's to traumatic brain injury," Adrian finished. "That's why he needs Emma's genetic material. Her mutation gives the compound direction, structure. She's the map to the destination he's trying to reach." Lena stared at the analysis results, mind racing. The inhibitor she'd described earlier would work, in theory, but synthesizing it would take days of careful work. Days they didn't have, unless she used a shortcut, the samples she still had in storage. Her original work on Neuraxon 7 had included a kill switch, something that could deactivate the compound if trials went wrong. She'd never tested it on a living subject, never had reason to, but the formula was still in her head, and with the equipment here— "What are you thinking?" Adrian asked. "Something dangerous, something that might kill you faster than the Neuraxon will." "I'm listening." She explained the kill switch, the theoretical mechanism that should break down the bonding agents and flush the compound from his system, should being the operative word. The margins for error were razor thin. "What happens if you're wrong?" he asked. "Massive neural cascade. Seizures, organ failure, death within hours. And if you're right, the Neuraxon breaks down. Your symptoms stabilize. You buy yourself time to figure out real treatment. Time being? Months. Maybe a year. I can't be more specific without actual trials. Adrian was quiet for a moment, looking at his shaking hands. Do it. You understand the risks. I understand I'm dead anyway. This way I go down fighting. He met her eyes. And maybe I help you stop Hawthorne in the process. That's worth the gamble. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to tell him there were other options, safer options. But there weren't. Not really. And the clock was ticking towards 6 p.m. and the abandoned pharmaceutical plant and all the ways tonight could end badly. She synthesized the kill switch in 40 minutes, working faster than she'd ever worked in her life. Mixed compounds, balanced ratios, double-check calculations, while her hands shook with adrenaline and fear. This is it, she said finally, holding up a syringe filled with clear liquid. Last chance to back out. Not backing out. Adrian rolled up his sleeve. Do it. The injection took 3 seconds. The effects started in 30. Adrian gasped, body going rigid. His eyes rolled back. Lena caught him before he hit the floor, already reaching for emergency equipment, preparing for the worst. Then he exhaled, opened his eyes, looked at his hands. The tremor was gone. Holy shit, he breathed. I can think clearly again. It's like someone turned off static I didn't even realize was there. Lena ran a quick neural scan, not quite believing it had worked. But the readings were clear, neuraxin levels dropping rapidly, normal pathway function resuming. It wasn't a cure, wasn't even close to permanent, but it had bought him time. How do you feel? Like I might actually survive this. Adrian stood, testing his balance, steady, strong. How long will it last? Unknown, days probably, maybe a week if we're lucky. After that, she didn't finish. After that, we figure out the next step. But for now, we focus on tonight. He checked his phone. Sarah just texted. Everything's in position. We need to move. They left the lab, Lena clutching the USB drive with her research and trying not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Marcus drove them back to the city, dropping Adrian at a staging point where his security team waited and continuing on with Lena to the pharmaceutical plant. It was 5:40 when they arrived. The building loomed against the darkening sky, windows broken, walls covered in graffiti. The perfect place for something to go very wrong. Sarah's voice crackled in the earpiece Lena was now wearing. Teams in position. I count 4 heat signatures inside the building, 3 more in vehicles on the perimeter. Hostiles? Lena asked quietly. Assumption is yes until proven otherwise. Adrian's people are tracking their communications. So far, nothing unusual. They're waiting for you. Lena took a breath. Emma's face flashed through her mind. Then Mrs. Kim's empty apartment. Then Hawthorne's smile at the dinner club, so certain of his own brilliance. Whatever it takes. I'm going in, she said. She walked toward the building alone, visible and vulnerable, exactly what they were expecting. The USB drive was in her pocket. The residual formula from the kill switch was in a vial tucked into her sleeve. Insurance, though she wasn't sure yet what kind. The front entrance was chained shut, but someone had left a side door propped open. Lena stepped through into darkness that smelled like rust and decay. A voice echoed from somewhere ahead. Dr. Morrison, so glad you could make it. Not Hawthorne's voice, younger, familiar somehow. Lena moved toward it, eyes adjusting to the dim light filtering through broken windows. The main floor of the plant was vast and empty, stripped of equipment years ago. Her footsteps echoed. 3 figures emerged from the shadows. The man in the middle she didn't recognize, mid-20s, expensive suit, the kind of generic corporate face that could disappear in a crowd. But the 2 flanking him, Lena's stomach dropped. Marcus and Jenkins, scientists from her old team, researchers she'd worked alongside for 3 years before everything fell apart. They'd sold out, or been bought, same difference. You look surprised, Marcus said. The one from her team, not Sarah's driver. Did you think you were the only one Hawthorne kept tabs on? I thought you were dead, Lena said honestly. Both of you. The report said what we wanted them to say, Jenkins interrupted. She looked older now, harder. We've been working with Hawthorne for 2 years, rebuilding what you tried to destroy. I didn't destroy anything. I tried to stop. You tried to stop progress, the young man cut in. My name is David Voss, Adrian's younger brother, and you're going to give me that research so I can finish what my family started. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin already pulled. Adrian's brother. Lena's mind raced, recalculating everything she thought she knew. Adrian had never mentioned a brother, never hinted at family beyond the mother who died when he was 12. David smiled at her confusion. He didn't tell you about me? I'm not surprised. Adrian's always been good at compartmentalizing, especially when it comes to family embarrassments. You're working with Hawthorne, Lena said, trying to buy time. Sarah's voice was silent in her ear. Either the building was blocking transmission or something had gone wrong with the team outside. Working for, technically, though the distinction hardly matters. David moved closer, and Lena saw the family resemblance now. Same jawline, same eyes. But where Adrian's face showed exhaustion and illness, David showed something colder. Hunger, maybe. Ambition. Hawthorne approached me 6 months ago, said my brother was dying and that you had the research that could save him. He just needed someone Adrian trusted to help facilitate things. So you betrayed him. I saved him, or I'm trying to. If he wasn't so stubborn about his ridiculous ethics, David's voice took on an edge. Our father built Voss Industries on calculated risks. Adrian inherited the company, but none of the vision. He's weak, always has been. Marcus from the old team stepped forward. Enough family drama. We're here for the research, Morrison. Hand it over. Lena's hand went to her pocket, fingers closing around the USB drive. What makes you think I brought it? Because you're a mother, Jenkins said. And mothers do predictable things when their children are threatened. You brought it. Now give it to us before this gets ugly. It's already ugly. You're working with a man who kidnapped a 4-year-old child. We're working with a man who's trying to cure degenerative brain disease, Marcus corrected. The fact that he had to use aggressive recruitment tactics is unfortunate but necessary. You of all people should understand that. You helped create this technology. You knew what it could do. I knew what it could do, and that's exactly why I tried to shut it down. Lena took a step back, assessing exits. The side door she'd come through, windows too high to reach, a stairwell to her left leading up to the second floor. This compound doesn't cure disease. It weaponizes the brain against itself. Only if you lack the genetic key, David interjected, which is where your delightful daughter comes in. Her mutation provides the stabilization factor. With it, we can direct the neuroplasticity instead of just triggering it, targeted healing instead of random destruction. You tested this theory? On Adrian, yes. Hawthorne's been dosing him for 6 months, adjusting the formula, monitoring results. Your brother's deterioration has been controlled, measured, perfect for our needs. David's smile was sharp. And before you get all self-righteous, Adrian volunteered. He knew he was sick. Hawthorne offered hope. Adrian just didn't know the hope came with conditions. Lena felt cold rage building in her chest. You let Hawthorne experiment on your own brother. I let Hawthorne save him. There's a difference. Where's Emma's sample? Lena demanded. The blood you drew last night. What did you do with it? Jenkins pulled out a small case from her jacket. Inside 3 vials of blood. Emma's blood. Right here. We've already synthesized the stabilization factor, tested it on preliminary subjects. The results are... She paused, something like genuine scientific excitement creeping into her voice. Remarkable. Complete neural regeneration in damaged tissue. Cognitive function improvements of 40%. This is the breakthrough we've been working toward for years. Built on the genetic material of a kidnapped child. Built on the future of medicine, Marcus countered. You're thinking too small, Morrison. This isn't about one kid or one company. This is about changing what's possible, curing Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, traumatic brain injuries. Your daughter's contribution could save millions. My daughter's contribution wasn't voluntary. That makes it theft, assault, child abuse. It makes it science, David said flatly. And science has never been pretty. You knew that when you started this project. Don't pretend you've suddenly grown a conscience. Lena's earpiece crackled. Sarah's voice, finally. Lena, we've got problems. More vehicles incoming. At least 6. They're surrounding the building. David's phone buzzed. He checked it, smiled. Dr. Hawthorne is about to join us. He wanted to handle the exchange personally, make sure there were no misunderstandings. The only misunderstanding is you thinking I'm going to hand over this research. Lena pulled the USB drive from her pocket, held it up. This is 7 years of work. Every formula, every trial, every failure. You're right that Emma's genetic material is the key. But without the foundation, without understanding how we got here, that blood is useless. It'll take you years to reverse engineer it. Years you don't have because Adrian's treatment is temporary and Emma's sample will degrade. She saw Marcus and Jenkins exchange glances, uncertainty creeping in. But I can give you everything, Lena continued, complete synthesis methods, detailed protocols, the entire roadmap, in exchange for Emma's blood samples and a guarantee you'll leave both of us alone. You're not in a position to negotiate, David said. Neither are you. Hawthorne needs this research. He's built his entire press conference, his whole narrative around having a breakthrough. But he doesn't actually have it, does he? He has pieces, fragments. Without my notes, he's bluffing. The sound of vehicles pulling up outside confirmed Hawthorne's arrival. Footsteps on gravel, doors slamming, at least a dozen people from the sound of it. Sarah's voice again. Adrian's team is engaging. Things are about to get loud. Lena had maybe 30 seconds before this building turned into a war zone. She made a decision. Marcus, Jenkins, you were good scientists once, before Hawthorne got his hooks in you. She looked between them. What's he paying you? What's he promising? Because I guarantee it's not worth what comes next. The next phase of human evolution, Jenkins said, but her voice wavered slightly. Medical advancement that'll put us in the history books. You'll be in history books as the people who experimented on a child. That's your legacy. Is that really what you want? The first gunshot cracked through the air outside. Then another, shouting. The distinct sound of someone screaming. David swore, pulling a gun from his jacket. Give me the drive. Now. Or what? You'll shoot me? I'm the only one who can synthesize this. Kill me and you've got nothing. I'll shoot you somewhere non-fatal and take it anyway. Lena weighed the vial of kill switch formula in her sleeve against the USB drive in her hand. Calculated odds she didn't like. Then Adrian's voice cut through the chaos, amplified by megaphone from outside. David, I know you're in there. We need to talk. David's expression twisted. Perfect. Family reunion. He grabbed Lena's arm, gun pressed against her ribs. Upstairs. Now. You two. He gestured at Marcus and Jenkins. Secure those samples and get them to the extraction point. I'll handle my brother. They climbed the stairs, David's grip tight enough to bruise. The second floor was more decay, collapsed ceiling sections, exposed rebar, pigeon droppings everywhere. But it had windows overlooking the front of the building where Adrian stood behind an SUV, surrounded by armed security personnel facing off against Hawthorne's people. Hawthorne himself was visible now, standing calmly in the middle of the parking lot like he was at a cocktail party instead of a standoff. Silver hair perfect, suit immaculate. The man had style, Lena would give him that. David pulled Lena to the window, made sure Adrian could see them. This is your fault, he shouted down. You and your bleeding heart ethics. If you just let Hawthorne treat you properly. Properly? Adrian's voice carried even without the megaphone now. He poisoned me, David. Used me as a test subject without consent. He was trying to save you by making me sick enough to need saving. That's not medicine, that's manipulation. Adrian took a step forward, hands visible and empty. Dr. Hawthorne, I know you can hear me. I'm willing to talk. Find a solution that doesn't involve anyone getting hurt. Hawthorne smiled. Lena could see it even from 2 floors up. Adrian, my boy, always so reasonable. But I'm afraid we're past the point of negotiation. Dr. Morrison has something I need. Your brother is simply ensuring she provides it. By holding her at gunpoint? By using available leverage. Surely you understand business strategy. Adrian's jaw clenched. Let her go. Whatever you want from her research, we can work something out. Legal channels, proper trials. I'll fund it personally. With what resources? Your company is hemorrhaging money. Your health is failing. You're in no position to fund anything. Hawthorne's voice was gentle, almost paternal. This is for your own good, Adrian. Once we perfect the treatment, once we prove it works, you'll understand. This was all necessary. Lena felt David's gun press harder against her ribs. Last chance, he muttered. Give me the drive or I throw you out this window and take it from your corpse. She looked down at Adrian, at the man she'd met less than 24 hours ago. The man who'd offered her protection and resources and a chance to stop running, who'd let her inject him with an experimental compound because he trusted her scientific judgment more than his own mentor's lies. The man whose brother was currently threatening to kill her. Okay, she said quietly. You win. She held out the USB drive. David reached for it, gun shifting slightly away from her ribs. That half second of reduced pressure was all Lena needed. She drove her elbow back into his solar plexus, grabbed his gun hand, and twisted. The weapon discharged, bullet punching through the ceiling. David gasped, tried to recover, but Lena was already moving. She'd spent 3 years waitressing, building muscle memory for staying balanced while carrying heavy trays. Turned out the same principles applied to hand-to-hand combat. She swept his legs, used his own momentum against him. He went down hard, and the gun skittered across the floor. Below, the standoff erupted into chaos. Sarah's voice in Lena's ear. Taking fire! Moving in! Lena ran for the stairs, still clutching the USB drive. Behind her, David was shouting, scrambling for the gun. She hit the ground floor running, emerged into the main plant space to find Marcus and Jenkins blocking her path. Marcus had a gun too. Of course he did. Everyone had guns now, apparently. Don't make this harder than it has to be, he said. Lena pulled the kill switch vial from her sleeve, held it up. You know what this is? Jenkins's eyes went wide. That's not... You didn't... Nurexon 7 inhibitor. Extremely unstable. If I drop this vial, it aerosolizes. Everyone in this building gets exposed, and since we're all breathing trace amounts of Nuraxon from the samples you've been handling, she let the implication hang. It was a complete bluff. The kill switch didn't work that way. But Marcus and Jenkins had been out of the research loop for years. They didn't know what she'd developed since then. You're insane, Marcus breathed. I'm a mother protecting her daughter. There's a difference. Lena took a step toward the exit. Put the gun down or we all find out what happens when this compound hits our nervous systems. Outside, the gunfire was intensifying. Someone was screaming. Glass shattered somewhere close by. Marcus lowered his weapon. Jenkins looked like she wanted to run. Then Hawthorne walked through the door. He was alone, unarmed, completely calm despite the chaos surrounding the building. He looked at Lena, at the vial in her hand, and smiled. Dr. Morrison, I've been looking forward to meeting you properly. The feeling isn't mutual. No, I imagine not. You blame me for disrupting your quiet life, for threatening your daughter, for being the villain in your story. He took a step closer. But from my perspective, I'm the one trying to save lives. Adrian's life, the millions who suffer from neurological diseases. Even your daughter's life, eventually, when the world realizes what her genetic gift represents. She's not a gift. She's a child. She's both. And you know it. Hawthorne's eyes were sharp now, cutting through the pleasant facade. You carried that research for 3 years instead of destroying it, kept samples, maintained the knowledge base. You told yourself it was insurance, but really? You couldn't let go of the potential, the possibility that one day someone would have the courage to finish what you started. This isn't courage. It's exploitation. It's necessity. The ethics of comfort versus the ethics of action. He gestured around the decaying building. You want to stand here in your moral high ground while people die from diseases we could cure? That's your choice. But don't pretend it's noble. It's cowardice dressed up as principle. The words stung because there was truth in them. Lena had questioned her own decision to destroy the research, had wondered, late at night, if she was preventing harm or just preventing progress. I won't let you use Emma, she said. I already have. That blood sample contains everything I need. With or without your research notes, I can move forward. It'll take longer, cost more, but I'll get there. Hawthorne pulled out his phone, showed her the screen. A photo of Emma, asleep in what looked like Sarah's brownstone. And before you think your security friend can protect her indefinitely, I have resources you haven't considered, people in places you don't expect. Lena's blood went cold. You're bluffing. Am I? Your friend Sarah Chen, excellent operative, but her neighbor with the golden retriever named Biscuit, the one Emma was promised she could visit? He doesn't exist. That was one of my people, waiting for the right moment. Sarah's voice crackled urgently in the earpiece. Lena, We've got a breach at the brownstone. Someone got through the perimeter. I'm engaging, but static. Then nothing. The vial nearly slipped from Lena's fingers. Emma. Everything else, the research, the standoff, the moral calculations, none of it mattered against that single fact. Someone was at the brownstone. Emma was in danger. Hawthorne saw the panic in her eyes and nodded. Now you understand. This isn't about what you want or what I want. It's about what happens next. You can give me the research willingly and I ensure your daughter's safety. Or you can fight and we both lose things we care about. How do I know you'll keep your word? You don't. But you know I'll keep my leverage. Emma is more valuable to me alive and healthy than harmed. As long as she remains useful, she remains protected. His expression softened slightly. I'm not a monster, Doctor. Morrison, I don't want to hurt children. I want to heal people. But I will do what's necessary to achieve that goal. Behind him, Adrian appeared in the doorway, breathing hard, bleeding from a cut above his eye. His security team was with him, weapons drawn but not firing. The standoff had reached critical mass. Lena, Adrian said, don't give him anything. We'll get Emma back. I promise. Hawthorne turned, surprised. Adrian, you're looking better. The treatment must be working. So the treatment almost killed me. The only reason I'm standing here is because Lena synthesized an inhibitor. Adrian moved closer, ignoring the guns tracking him. It's over, James. FBI is already executing warrants on your lab facilities. They found the test subjects, the unauthorized trials, everything. Bluffs and warrants mean nothing. I have senators, board members, investors who want this technology to succeed. They'll bury your evidence and discredit your witnesses. Hawthorne's confidence never wavered. You're playing checkers, Adrian. I'm playing chess. You've never understood the difference. Maybe not, but I understand people, and I know you're scared. Adrian pointed at David, now appearing at the top of the stairs, still holding his gun. You recruited my brother because you knew I wouldn't help you anymore. You're running out of allies, out of time. Whatever you're planning with Emma's genetic material, it's not working. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, wouldn't need Lena's research so desperately. Hawthorne's smile flickered, just for a moment, but Lena saw it. The synthesis failed, she said suddenly, understanding. You tried to use Emma's blood to create the stabilization factor, and it didn't work, because you don't have the complete formula. You're missing variables. Minor setbacks. Major failures, she corrected. The genetic material is useless without understanding the delivery mechanism, the binding agents, the neural pathway mapping I developed. You have a key but no lock, no door. Nothing but expensive blood samples and desperation. Hawthorne's expression went cold. Then I suppose we're at an impasse. I have your daughter. You have my research. Someone needs to compromise. Lena looked at the USB drive in her hand. 7 years of work. The potential to save lives or destroy them, depending on who controlled it. She thought about Emma, her laugh, her terrible singing, her gap-toothed smile. Then she thought about something else. The fact that she'd been a scientist longer than she'd been a mother. That she understood data, probabilities, risk assessment, and the data said Hawthorne was lying. You don't have Emma, she said quietly. If you did, you'd have shown me proof, real-time video, not a still photo that could have been taken hours ago. You're bluffing about the brownstone breach to force my hand. Sarah's voice crackled back in her ear, slightly distorted but clear. Confirmed. False alarm. Emma's secure. Someone tried to spoof our communication, but we caught it. Relief flooded through Lena, followed immediately by rage. You manipulated the transmission, made me think Emma was in danger. And it worked, Hawthorne said. For a moment you were willing to give me everything. That tells me what I need to know about your priorities. And your weaknesses. It also tells you I'm done negotiating. Lena turned to Adrian. The samples Jenkins has. Can your people secure them? Adrian spoke into his radio, then nodded. Teams moving now. Hawthorne tried to signal something, but Adrian's security personnel were faster. They moved through the building, weapons trained on Marcus and Jenkins. Within 30 seconds, the blood samples were secured. Hawthorne watched this unfold without visible emotion. Impressive, but temporary. Those samples are legally obtained property of my research foundation. They'll be returned within hours. Legally obtained from a kidnapped child? That'll be an interesting argument in court. Adrian stepped forward until he was almost nose to nose with his former mentor. You made a mistake, James. You thought I was weak, thought my illness made me desperate enough to ignore what you were doing. But you forgot something. What's that? I learned from you every manipulation, every calculated risk, every time you chose progress over ethics. Adrian's voice was steady. The difference is, I learned what not to become. For the first time, Hawthorne looked genuinely angry. You're throwing away your only chance at survival. That inhibitor Morrison gave you is temporary. Days, maybe a week. Then you're right back where you started. Then I die, knowing I didn't compromise my humanity to stay alive. Adrian turned to Lena. The research. Give it to me. She hesitated. Adrian, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to secure it. Put it somewhere Hawthorne can't reach, somewhere it can't be weaponized. He held out his hand. Trust me. And Lena realized she did. Against all logic, against every survival instinct that said trust no one, she trusted Adrian Voss. She placed the USB drive in his palm. Hawthorne moved fast for a man in his 60s. He lunged for Adrian, grabbed his wrist, tried to wrestle the drive away. David shouted from the stairs and fired. The bullet went wide but close enough that everyone scattered. The building erupted into chaos again. Adrian's security team returned fire. Lena dove behind a support column. Marcus and Jenkins ran for the back exit, apparently deciding their loyalty had limits. Mom. David came down the stairs firing wildly, trying to create enough confusion to reach his brother and the research. He made it halfway before one of Adrian's people put 2 rounds in his shoulder. He went down screaming. Adrian scrambled to his brother, despite the gunfire, despite everything. Lena saw him there, trying to stop the bleeding, shouting for medical support, tears streaming down his face. Hawthorne used the distraction to disappear into the shadows of the building. One moment he was there, the next gone. Sarah's voice in Lena's ear. Target escaping through west exit, pursuit? Lena looked at Adrian, at David bleeding on the floor, at the USB drive that had somehow stayed clutched in Adrian's hand through everything. She thought about revenge, about justice, about letting Hawthorne run versus making sure he faced consequences. Then she thought about Emma, about getting back to her daughter, about the fact that she'd already spent too much time in this decaying building surrounded by people with guns. Let him go, she said. We have what we came for. The standoff dissolved as quickly as it had formed. Hawthorne's people retreated when their employer vanished. Adrian's security team secured the perimeter. Paramedics arrived for David, who was conscious and swearing creatively. Adrian stood slowly, still holding the USB drive, looking down at his brother. Why'd you do it? Why'd you help him? David, face pale from blood loss, laughed bitterly. Because you were dying and wouldn't do what was necessary to save yourself. Someone had to. By experimenting on a child? By using available resources to solve an impossible problem. That's what Dad would have done. That's what leaders do. David's eyes were fading, shock setting in. You're weak, Adrian, always have been. That's why you'll lose. Maybe, but I'll lose being someone I can live with. Paramedics took David away. Adrian watched the ambulance leave, then turned to Lena. He looked exhausted, defeated, like someone who'd just watched their family implode in real time. I'm sorry, he said, about my brother. About all of this. You didn't know. I should have seen what Hawthorne was doing, should have questioned why David suddenly wanted back in my life after years of radio silence. He looked at the USB drive. What do you want me to do with this? What you said. Secure it. Lock it away somewhere safe. You trust me with that? I trust you to not use it to hurt people. That's more than I can say for most. Lena's earpiece crackled. Sarah reporting all clear. Emma still safe. Mrs. Kim located and unharmed, just scared. I need to get back to my daughter. I'll drive you. They left the pharmaceutical plant behind, climbing into one of Adrian's SUVs. The city was dark now, streetlights creating pools of yellow against the night. Normal people were having normal evenings. Dinner, television, arguments about whose turn it was to do dishes. Lena wanted that so badly it hurt. They drove in silence for a while. Then Adrian said, The inhibitor you gave me. You said days to a week. What happens after? The neuraxon rebuilds, symptoms return, probably faster than before because the compound will adapt to the inhibitor. So I'm still dying. Yes. He nodded slowly. At least I know. That's better than Hawthorne's lies. I might be able to synthesize more inhibitor, buy you more time, but it's not a solution, just delaying the inevitable. Sometimes delayed inevitable is all we get. He glanced at her. Will you help me with the synthesis? If I can access a lab, yes. You can access mine, the one we were at today. It's yours for as long as you need it. Lena was quiet for a moment. Why are you helping me? Really? We just met. You don't owe me anything. You saved my life at that dinner club, then saved it again with that inhibitor. And you did both without knowing if I deserved saving. Adrian's hands were steady on the wheel now, tremor gone. Temporarily. That's enough reason for me. They reached Sarah's brownstone. Emma was awake, watching a movie with Sarah, eating popcorn like nothing had happened. When she saw Lena, she launched herself across the room. Mama! Sarah let me stay up late and we watched the one with the singing princess, and she said, tomorrow we can visit Biscuit. Lena caught her, held her close, breathed in strawberry shampoo and little girl sweat. That sounds perfect, baby. Are we still on our adventure? For a little while longer, but we're safe now. Emma pulled back, studying Lena's face with that disconcerting intensity. You promise? And Lena wanted to. Wanted to promise Emma that everything was fine, that they could go home, that the danger was over. But she'd promised not to lie. I promise I'm going to do everything I can to keep us safe, she said instead. But it might take time. Emma seemed to accept this. She went back to the movie, leaving Lena and Sarah and Adrian in the kitchen. Sarah had coffee brewing. She poured 3 cups without asking. Hawthorne's in the wind. Put out a statement through his lawyers saying he's cooperating with authorities, blah, blah, blah. FBI has warrants, but he's got judges in his pocket. This isn't over. I know, Lena said. He'll come after the research again, after Emma. He's too invested to just walk away. I know that too. Adrian set the USB drive on the table. Then we need a permanent solution. Not just hiding, not just defending. We need to eliminate the threat completely. You mean kill him? Sarah said flatly. I mean take away his power, his resources, his ability to hurt people. Adrian looked between them. I have lawyers, investigators, money Hawthorne can't match because he's been burning through capital on illegal research. We can destroy him legally, completely, but it'll take time and coordination. How much time? Lena asked. Months, maybe a year, during which Emma needs to be somewhere he absolutely cannot reach, somewhere off the grid. Sarah leaned back. I have a place. Remote. Secure. Used it for witness protection before I went private. No digital footprint. Cash economy. The kind of place where people don't ask questions. She looked at Lena. But you'd have to disappear again, completely. New identity for both of you. No contact with anyone from your old life until this is resolved. Lena felt the walls closing in. Another identity. Another disappearance. Another version of invisibility. Except this time it wouldn't be running. It would be strategic retreat, setting up defensive positions while Adrian worked to destroy Hawthorne's empire from the inside. What about the research? She asked. If we're locking it away, what's the point? We're right back where we started. Hawthorne can't use it, but neither can anyone else. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, what if we finished it the right way? Legal trials, proper oversight. Use Emma's genetic profile as a template, but synthesize it, don't harvest it. Develop the treatment Hawthorne was trying to create without the shortcuts and exploitation. That would take years, Lena said, and millions in funding. I have years, temporarily thanks to you, and I can get funding, real funding, from people who care about ethics as much as results. He looked at her. But I'd need a lead researcher. Someone who understands the science better than anyone. Someone who's already proven she can synthesize the impossible in under an hour. Lena understood what he was offering. Not just protection, not just resources, a purpose, a way to take everything she'd tried to destroy and transform it into something that might actually help people. I'd have to disappear first, she said. Make sure Emma's safe. That could take months. I'll wait. The research isn't going anywhere. Adrian smiled tiredly. Besides, I need time to clean up the mess my mentor and brother made. Might as well use it productively. Sarah cleared her own throat. This is all very heartwarming, but we need to make decisions now. Hawthorne's lawyers will file motions to get those blood samples back by morning. We need Emma somewhere he can't track by then. How fast can you move her? Lena asked. 3 hours. I've got a plane waiting. We can be in the air by midnight. Lena looked at Emma, still absorbed in the movie, singing along badly to the princess songs, completely unaware that her entire life was about to change again. 3 years ago, Lena had made the decision to disappear to protect her daughter. She'd built a life from nothing, stayed invisible, survived. And it hadn't been enough. The past had found them anyway, but this time would be different. This time she wasn't running alone. She had Adrian's resources, Sarah's expertise, a plan that went beyond survival into actual solutions. Okay, she said, let's do it. The next 3 hours were controlled chaos. Sarah made calls, arranged transport, created documentation for new identities. Adrian worked his contacts, setting up financial support that couldn't be traced back to him. Lena packed the essentials from what little they had: Emma's favorite stuffed elephant, some clothes, the puzzle they'd never finished. Emma woke up halfway through, confused. Are we leaving again? Yes, baby, one more adventure. But this time it's going to be somewhere beautiful. Mountains and trees and probably some animals. Will you be there? Every single day. What about Sarah? And Adrian? And Biscuit? Lena's throat tightened. They have to stay here, but we'll see them again, I promise. At 11:30, they drove to a small private airfield outside the city. The plane was small, unmarked, flown by someone who Sarah vouched for and Lena didn't ask about. Adrian walked them to the tarmac. The inhibitor was already wearing off. Lena could see the tremor starting to return to his hands. She had maybe 48 hours before he'd need another dose. 48 hours to synthesize more and get it to him somehow. I'll be in touch, he said. Encrypted channels. Sarah will set it up. And the research? He patted his jacket pocket where the USB drive rested. Already backed up in 3 separate locations. All secure. All inaccessible without biometric authentication from both of us. Both of us? You didn't think I'd trust myself alone with it, did you? After everything with Hawthorne? Adrian smiled. We're partners now, whether you like it or not. Lena surprised herself by hugging him. Don't die while I'm gone. I'll try my best. Sarah was already on the plane with Emma, getting her settled. Lena climbed aboard, took one last look at Chicago, the city where she'd built a life and watched it burn, and maybe, possibly, found something like hope in the ashes. The plane lifted off into darkness. Emma fell asleep against Lena's shoulder within minutes. Lena stayed awake, watching city lights fade to rural darkness to nothing at all. Somewhere below, Hawthorne was planning his next move. David was in a hospital under guard. Adrian was driving back to face whatever legal and corporate fallout was coming, and Lena was disappearing again. But this time felt different. This time she wasn't running away from something. She was running toward it. Toward a future where Emma was safe and the research she'd created could be used for healing instead of harm. Toward a version of herself that didn't have to choose between being a scientist and being a mother. That could be both without apology. The plane flew through the night, carrying them to whatever came next. And for the first time in 3 years, Lena wasn't afraid of it. The cabin smelled like pine and decade-old furniture polish. Lena stood in the doorway with Emma tucked against her hip, taking in the place that would be home for however long this took. Small, remote. A single dirt road leading in from a highway that barely qualified as paved. Mountains pressing close on all sides like the world was trying to swallow them whole. Perfect, in other words. Sarah had called it off the grid. That was generous. The cabin had electricity from a generator that coughed like a dying smoker and running water that came out brown for the first 30 seconds. No internet. No cell service. A radio for emergencies that picked up exactly 2 stations, country music and evangelical preaching. Emma stirred, looked around with sleepy eyes. Is this the adventure place? This is it. It's small. Yeah, it is. I like our old apartment better. Lena's chest tightened. Me too, baby. But this is what we've got for now. The pilot who'd flown them, a woman named Torres who'd barely said 10 words the entire flight, helped unload their minimal luggage. 2 duffel bags, a backpack, the stuffed elephant that Emma refused to pack because she needed to carry it herself. Torres handed Lena a satellite phone. Emergency only. Sarah's number is programmed. Don't use it unless someone's dying or the cabin's on fire. Signals can be traced. See how long until Sarah contacts us? When it's safe. Could be days. Could be weeks. Torres headed back toward the plane without ceremony. Good luck. The plane took off, leaving Lena and Emma alone in wilderness that felt less peaceful and more like abandonment. The nearest town was 40 minutes away by car, a car they didn't have yet. Sarah had promised one would be delivered tomorrow, something old and unremarkable that wouldn't attract attention. For tonight, they had the cabin and each other and not much else. Lena spent the next hour making the place livable, found sheets that smelled like mothballs and made up the 2 small beds, located canned food in the pantry, beans, soup, vegetables that had probably been there since before Emma was born. The stove worked. The fireplace too, which was good because November in the mountains meant cold nights even with the generator running. Emma explored with the fearlessness of 4-year-olds, declaring the cabin like a playhouse but real, and claiming the smaller bedroom because, Mama, you're bigger, so you need more space. By the time Lena got dinner together, canned soup heated on the ancient stove, exhaustion was pulling at her like gravity. She'd slept maybe 4 hours in the last 2 days. Her body was running on adrenaline and maternal stubbornness, both of which were rapidly depleting. They ate at a table that wobbled. Emma talked about the plane ride, about how she could see cities below that looked like sparkly ant houses, about whether there were bears in these mountains, and if they were friendly. Probably not friendly, Lena said, but we'll be careful. Stay close to the cabin. No wandering off. What if I see one? You run inside and tell me immediately. Emma considered this seriously. What if it's a baby bear? Can I pet it? Especially not a baby bear. That means the mama bear's close and she won't be happy about strangers near her baby. Like you and me. Exactly like you and me. After dinner, Lena tried to explain what would happen next. That they'd be staying here for a while. That Mama had work to do, important work, and Emma would need to be patient and brave. That their lives would be different for a bit, but it was all to keep them safe. Emma listened with the attention span of someone who'd rather be playing. Can I go to school? Not regular school. I'll teach you here. Will I have friends? That question hurt. Maybe eventually. We'll see. When can we go home? I don't know yet. Emma's face crumpled, not crying, not quite, but the precursor. The wobbling bottom lip that meant tears were imminent. I don't like this adventure anymore. I want Mrs. Kim. I want my room. I want my bed with the stars on the ceiling. Lena pulled Emma close, feeling her daughter's small body shake with the effort of not sobbing. I know, baby. I know this is hard, but we're going to be okay. I promise. You keep promising, but things keep getting scary. And that was the truth, wasn't it? Lena had promised safety and normalcy and a childhood unmarred by her mother's past. She'd failed on all counts. You're right, she said quietly. I keep promising and things keep changing. But here's what I can actually promise. I will always fight to protect you. I will always tell you the truth. And I will never, ever stop trying to make things better. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, can we read a story? They only had 3 books, grabbed hastily during packing. Emma picked the one about the mouse who wanted to be a princess, a story they'd read so many times Lena could recite it from memory. She read it twice, doing all the voices, letting Emma point out details in the illustrations, even though they both knew every page by heart. By the second reading, Emma was asleep. Lena carried her to bed, tucked the covers around her, kissed her forehead. Stood there for too long watching her daughter breathe, making sure she was really okay, really safe. Then she went back to the main room and let herself fall apart. Not crying. Lena had trained herself out of crying years ago, back when crying felt like weakness she couldn't afford. But she sat on the wobbling chair in this cabin in the middle of nowhere and let her hands shake. Let her breath come ragged. Let herself feel the full weight of what she'd done. Her daughter was 4 years old and on the run. Again. Because Lena's research, Lena's choices, Lena's inability to just destroy everything when she had the chance had made them targets. And now Emma would grow up in places like this. Temporary, isolated, always looking over their shoulder. The satellite phone sat on the table, accusing. Emergency only, Torres had said. But Lena wanted to call Adrian, wanted to know how the inhibitor was holding, wanted to call Sarah and ask if the legal maneuvers were working, if Hawthorne was being cornered or if he'd slipped through again. Wanted to call someone and hear that this was temporary, that it would end soon, that Emma could have a normal childhood eventually. She didn't call anyone. Instead, she opened the backpack she'd brought, pulled out the notebook she'd grabbed from the hotel, started working through calculations for the next inhibitor synthesis. Adrian would need another dose in 36 hours, maybe less. She had to figure out how to make it remotely, how to get it to him without breaking radio silence, how to keep him alive while they were separated. The math was almost meditative. Variables and constants and reactions she understood better than human emotion. This was familiar territory, safe ground. She worked until her eyes blurred, until the kerosene lamp started sputtering, until she realized it was past midnight and she'd been doing formulas for 3 hours straight. Tomorrow, she'd figure out how to actually create anything out here. The cabin had no lab equipment, no reagents, nothing but a kitchen and some basic supplies. She'd have to improvise, adapt, make do with what existed. Story of her life, really. Lena checked on Emma one more time, still sleeping peacefully, stuffed elephant clutched tight, then crawled into her own bed. Sleep came fast, dreamless, and heavy. She woke to Emma shaking her shoulder. "Mama, someone's outside." Lena was awake instantly, the pleasant fog of sleep evaporating. "What did you see?" "A car, coming up the road." It was barely dawn, gray light filtering through dirty windows. Lena moved to the front room, looked out carefully. Emma was right. A vehicle was approaching, old pickup truck that matched Torres's description of what Sarah was sending. But it was early, too early. The delivery wasn't supposed to happen until afternoon. Lena grabbed Emma, pulled her back from the window. "Stay behind me. If I tell you to run, you go out the back door and into the trees. Don't stop until you can't hear anything, then wait for me to find you. Understand?" Emma nodded, eyes wide. The truck pulled up. A man got out, older, weathered face, moving with the careful economy of someone whose body hurt more days than not. He didn't approach the cabin, just stood by his truck waiting. Lena opened the door a crack. "Can I help you?" "Sarah Chen sent me. Said you'd need transport and supplies." His voice was rough, like gravel being sorted. "Name's Ray. I run the general store in town. Also do odd jobs for people who need discretion." "It's early." "Wanted to get here before the breakfast crowd started asking questions about where I was going." He gestured to the truck bed. "Got food, basic necessities. Some things Sarah said you'd need. Also brought your car. It's being towed behind. Nothing fancy, but it runs." Lena relaxed slightly. The details matched what Sarah had promised. "Emma, stay inside for a minute." She stepped out, helped Ray unload boxes. Canned goods, fresh vegetables that wouldn't last long but were a luxury out here. Milk and eggs, bread, cleaning supplies, clothes in approximately Emma's size. A laptop, old model, no wireless capability, but functional for work. And in a separate locked case that Ray handed over with particular care, lab equipment. Basic stuff, beakers, burners, a small centrifuge, chemical reagents in sealed containers. Not a full laboratory, but enough to work with. "Sarah thought you might need to do some science," Ray said. "Told me not to ask what kind." "Smart policy. I've learned not to ask questions about Sarah's people. Live longer that way." He handed her keys to both vehicles. "Truck's yours now. Registered to a shell company, plates are clean. You need supplies. Come to my store. Town's called Millbrook, 40 minutes south. I open at 8, close at 6. Cash only." "Understood." Ray studied her for a moment. "You in some kind of trouble?" "The kind I'm trying to get out of." "The little girl yours?" "Yes." He nodded. "Kids change things, make you fight harder, make you smarter." He climbed back into the truck he'd used for towing. "You need anything? Anything at all, you ask. Sarah vouches for you. That's good enough for me." He drove off, leaving Lena with supplies and transportation and the first glimmer of hope that maybe this could actually work. Emma emerged from the cabin, cautious. "Was he nice?" "I think so." "Can we go to town? I want to see what it looks like." "Maybe in a few days. We need to settle in first." They spent the morning unpacking. Emma claimed a corner of the main room for her toys, set up the stuffed elephant as king of a pillow kingdom. Lena organized the lab equipment in what had been a storage closet, mentally cataloging what she had versus what she'd need. The reagents Sarah had sent were basic but thoughtfully chosen. Someone with chemistry knowledge had picked these out. Probably Sarah herself. Former CIA meant training in things normal people never thought about. By afternoon, Lena had a functional workspace. Cramped, far from ideal, but workable. She could synthesize the inhibitor here. Would take longer without proper equipment, would require jury-rigging solutions, but it was possible. She started immediately, working through the synthesis while Emma played nearby. The process was delicate. Wrong ratios would create something useless or dangerous. Lena worked carefully, measuring twice, checking calculations, moving through steps with the precision of someone who couldn't afford mistakes. It took 6 hours. By the time she finished, Emma was hungry and bored and asking for the 47th time if they could please go exploring. "Tomorrow," Lena promised, "we'll walk around the property, see what's here. Can we look for bears?" "We can look, from a safe distance." Dinner was better than last night. Fresh vegetables, eggs scrambled with cheese, bread that wasn't from a can. Emma ate enthusiastically, chattering about the Pillow Kingdom and the story she'd invented about the elephant's adventures. After dinner, Lena used the satellite phone. Just once. Quick message to the number Sarah had programmed. "Package ready. Need delivery method." The reply came within minutes. "Will arrange. Status? Secure. Settling in." Good. Radio silence until further notice. "We're making progress on primary objective." The primary objective being Hawthorne's destruction. Lena wondered what that progress looked like. Legal filings? Financial pressure? Something more direct? She didn't ask. Just powered down the phone and went back to being invisible. The days fell into a rhythm. Mornings were for Emma, makeshift lessons in reading and math, nature walks around the property, games invented from whatever materials they had. Afternoons and evenings were for work. Lena synthesized 3 more doses of inhibitor, packaged them carefully, waited for Sarah's pickup arrangement. A week in, Ray showed up again. "Got a package going south. Sarah said you might have something going the same direction." Lena handed over the inhibitors in a sealed container. "Temperature sensitive. Needs to stay cool." "I'll handle it." Ray hesitated. "How's the girl doing?" "She's resilient. Kids are." "She asks about friends yet?" "Every day." "There's other kids in Millbrook. Not many, but some. If you ever decide it's safe enough, there's a library." "Does story time on Wednesdays?" "Librarian's good people. Doesn't gossip." Lena thought about Emma, about her daughter's need for normal childhood experiences. Maybe, eventually. Offer stands. Ray left, taking the inhibitors with him. 3 days later, an encrypted message from Sarah confirmed they'd reached Adrian. He was stable. Symptoms manageable. The treatment was holding. 2 weeks became 3. 3 became a month. Emma's 5th birthday came and went, celebrated with a cake Lena made from scratch that came out lopsided and delicious. They sang happy birthday in the cabin, just the 2 of them, and Emma made a wish she wouldn't share. "If I tell you, it won't come true," she said seriously. Lena didn't ask. She could guess. Emma wished to go home, to have friends, to stop living in a cabin in the mountains with only her mother for company. Lena wished for the same things, and for Emma's wish to come true faster than her own ever had. The isolation was harder than Lena expected. Not the physical isolation. She'd spent enough time in labs to appreciate solitude, but the mental isolation. No one to talk to except Emma. No adult conversation, no intellectual sparring, no one to discuss synthesis methods or debate ethical implications. She started keeping a journal, writing letters to no one, working through thoughts on paper because speaking them aloud to an empty room felt too pathetic. She wrote about the research, about possibilities she saw in the data, about treatments that could revolutionize neurological medicine if developed properly. She wrote about Emma, about her daughter's resilience and humor and the way she adapted to circumstances that would break most adults, about the guilt Lena carried for putting her through this, about the desperate hope that someday, somehow, this would all be worth it. She wrote about Adrian, which surprised her, about wondering if the inhibitors were working, if he was following up legally against Hawthorne, if he thought about their night at the pharmaceutical plant. about the strange partnership they'd formed, built on crisis and necessity, but somehow feeling more solid than relationships she'd had for years. She didn't send the letters, just wrote them and stored them in a drawer, and tried not to think too hard about what they meant. 6 weeks in, Sarah finally called. Real call this time, not just encrypted messages. "We've got movement," she said without preamble. FBI raided 3 of Hawthorne's facilities, found evidence of unauthorized human trials, falsified research data, financial fraud. It's all hitting the news tomorrow. Lena's heart jumped. Is it enough? To arrest him? Yes. To convict? Maybe. He's got lawyers already trying to suppress evidence. But Adrian's been working his contacts, feeding information to prosecutors. We've got whistleblowers coming forward, financial records showing payoffs. It's building. Where's Hawthorne now? Under house arrest, ankle monitor, no travel. But he's still dangerous, Lena. Still has resources. Until he's actually in prison, you and Emma stay hidden. How long? Trials take time, months, minimum. Could be a year. Sarah's voice softened. I know that's not what you want to hear. Emma needs more than this. She needs school, friends, a real life. She needs to be alive. Everything else comes second. Sarah paused. Adrian wants to talk to you. I'm putting him on. The phone clicked. Then Adrian's voice, stronger than she'd heard it in weeks. Lena. Just her name, but the way he said it made her chest tight. You sound better. Your inhibitors are working. I'm functional again. Almost normal. He laughed quietly. It's strange, being able to think clearly. I'd forgotten what that felt like. How long can you maintain dosing? As long as you keep synthesizing it. But that's not sustainable long term. We need real treatment, which requires completing the research, proper trials, FDA approval. Lena looked around the cabin at the makeshift lab in the closet. None of which I can do from here. No, but you could do it from my facility. Once this is over, once Hawthorne's neutralized. Adrian's voice dropped. I meant what I said, about partnership, about doing this right. I haven't forgotten. Good, because I've been thinking, the treatment we're developing, it's not just for me. There are thousands of people with neurological conditions. We could help them, actually help them, not weaponize their suffering like Hawthorne did. That's years of work. Clinical trials alone. I've got time now, thanks to you. A pause. How's Emma? Bored, lonely. She asks about going home every single day. Tell her I'm working on it. Tell her... He stopped, started again. Tell her there's someone here who remembers what it's like to be a kid stuck somewhere they don't want to be. And it gets better. You were sick as a child? Different kind of sick. My father was ambitious, controlling. Home felt like a prison sometimes. His voice was distant, remembering. After my mother died, he got worse. David and I both dealt with it differently. I tried to be perfect. David tried to rebel. Neither strategy worked great. Is that why you're helping me? Because you relate? I'm helping you because it's the right thing to do. But yeah, maybe I relate too. Adrian cleared his throat. I should go. Just wanted to hear your voice. Make sure you're okay. We're managing. That's not the same as okay. It's what I've got. After the call, Lena sat in the darkening cabin and tried not to analyze what she felt. Relief that Adrian was doing better. Frustration that this wasn't over yet. Something else she didn't have a name for. Something warm and complicated and entirely unwelcome. She'd met the man 3 times. Twice under extreme duress, once in a laboratory while she was injecting him with experimental compounds. That wasn't a foundation for anything except trauma bonding. And yet, Emma came out of her room, sleepy-eyed. Who are you talking to? A friend. He says hello. Is it the friend helping with our adventure? Yes. When can we go home? The question never changed. Just the tone, sometimes hopeful, sometimes angry, sometimes so heartbreakingly sad that Lena wanted to pack them both up and drive straight back to Chicago, regardless of the consequences. I don't know yet, baby, but we're working on it. You're always working on it, but we're still here. I know. I'm sorry. Emma climbed into Lena's lap, even though she was getting big for that, all elbows and knees. I miss my old room and Mrs. Kim's cookies and the park where we fed the ducks. Me too. Do you miss your friends? Lena thought about the question. She'd had colleagues, not friends, people she worked with but never truly connected to. The isolation had started long before the cabin. I miss having people to talk to, she said honestly. But my most important person is right here. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, Mama, are we going to be okay? And that was the real question, wasn't it? Not when would this end, but would they survive it intact? Yes, Lena said. We're going to be okay. It might take a while. It might be hard, but we're going to come through this. Promise? I promise. Emma seemed satisfied with that. She went back to bed, leaving Lena alone with promises she desperately hoped she could keep. The next day, news broke. Lena watched on the ancient television Ray had delivered the week before, Emma playing nearby, oblivious to the importance of what was unfolding. The headlines were brutal. Biotech pioneer charged with human experimentation. Voss Industries under investigation. Illegal research program exposed. Hawthorne's face was everywhere. Perp walk footage, courtroom sketches, old photos from conferences where he'd accepted awards for medical innovation. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The reports mentioned unnamed victims, test subjects who'd suffered neurological damage from experimental compounds, families who'd been promised cures and received trauma instead. They didn't mention Emma. Sarah and Adrian had made sure of that. Lena's daughter was a sealed record, a redacted name, a minor whose privacy was protected by law. Small mercies. But the coverage also showed protests outside Voss Industries, people demanding Adrian's arrest, accusing him of complicity. His company's stock was plummeting. Board members were resigning. The empire he'd inherited was collapsing in real time. Lena called Sarah. Is Adrian okay? Physically, yes. Legally, he's in the clear. Prosecutors confirmed he was a victim, not a conspirator. But publicly? Sarah sighed. He's being crucified. People want someone to blame, and Hawthorne's too abstract. Adrian's right there, tangible, running the company that funded this. That's not fair. Fair has nothing to do with it. He's a billionaire facing consequences. Public loves that story. Sarah paused. He's going to testify against Hawthorne. Full disclosure of everything. The dosing, the manipulation, David's involvement. His lawyers are losing their minds, but he's insisting. Why? Because he thinks it's right. Because he's stubborn. Because... Sarah stopped. You'd have to ask him. Lena wanted to call Adrian and ask why he was sacrificing his reputation, his company, everything to take down Hawthorne. Wanted to tell him he didn't have to, that they could find another way. But she knew why. Same reason she'd dropped that wine bottle. Same reason she was hiding in a cabin instead of negotiating deals. Some things mattered more than survival. When does he testify? Lena asked. 2 weeks. It'll be televised. The whole world will be watching. 2 weeks felt like forever, and no time at all. Lena threw herself into work, synthesized more inhibitors, refined the formula, started sketching out protocols for actual treatment development. She filled notebooks with research plans, clinical trial designs, ethical frameworks that would prevent anyone from weaponizing this work again. Emma grew quieter, more withdrawn. She played with her toys but without enthusiasm, answered questions in monosyllables, stopped asking about going home. That scared Lena more than the questions had. Emma, talk to me. What's wrong? Nothing. That's not true. You're sad. I'm not sad. I'm just... Emma struggled for words. Waiting. For everything to be normal again, but it's taking so long and I don't know if normal is even real anymore. Lena pulled her daughter close, feeling the weight of those words. 5 years old and already learning that safety was temporary, that normal was a luxury, that the world was more complicated and cruel than children should have to understand. Normal is real, Lena said. We'll get there. I promise. You keep promising. Because I keep meaning it. Emma looked up at her with eyes that seemed too old. What if the bad people find us? They won't. But what if they do? Lena took a breath. Emma deserved honesty, even when honesty was frightening. Then I'll protect you, whatever it takes. And if I can't do it alone, I have friends who'll help. You're safe, Emma. That's the one thing I can absolutely promise. Okay. Emma didn't sound entirely convinced, but she relaxed slightly. Can we go to town tomorrow? Ray said there's a library. You want to go to story time? I want to see other kids, even if I can't talk to them, just to remember they exist. That broke something in Lena's chest. Okay, we'll go tomorrow. So they did. Drove into Millbrook in their unremarkable truck, Emma dressed in clothes that didn't stand out, Lena wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses like every other parent trying to survive the day. The library was small but well-loved, worn books, comfortable chairs, a children's section with bright murals and questionable carpet. Storytime was already starting when they arrived, a librarian reading to a dozen kids ranging from toddlers to maybe 7 years old. Emma hesitated at the door. Can I sit with them? Of course. She watched Emma join the group, sitting cross-legged next to a boy about her age. Watched her daughter's face light up when she laughed at something in the story. Watched her whisper to the boy, who whispered back, both of them dissolving into giggles. Normal. This was what normal looked like. The librarian caught Lena's eye, smiled. New in town? Temporarily. Well, she's welcome any time. Story time's every Wednesday. Sometimes we do crafts after. Thank you. Lena stayed for the whole hour, watching Emma be a regular kid in a regular place doing regular things. When it was over, Emma bounced over, excited. Mama, that's Tyler. She pointed at the boy. And he has a dog named Soup, and he says I can come over sometime and meet him if it's okay with you. We'll see. That means maybe, right? That means maybe. Tyler's mother approached, friendly smile. They seem to hit it off. You should bring her to the park this weekend. Bunch of families usually show up. Good way to meet people. We're pretty busy. Everyone's busy, but kids need kids, you know? She pulled out a phone. What's your number? I'll text you details. Lena froze. No phone. No way to give a number that couldn't be traced. Actually, we're between phones right now. Long story, but maybe we'll see you there? Sure. Park's on Main Street. Can't miss it. Saturday around 10. They left the library. Emma chattering about Tyler and story time and how the librarian did really good voices. Lena listened, trying to ignore the paranoia creeping in. Meeting other families, going to parks, being visible. Everything Sarah had told her not to do. But Emma needed this. Needed normalcy and friends and a childhood that wasn't defined entirely by her mother's mistakes. That night, Lena called Sarah. How locked down do we need to be? What do you mean? Emma went to story time today at the library. Made a friend. There's a park gathering this weekend. Absolutely not, Sarah cut in. No public gatherings. No regular schedules. Nothing that makes you predictable. She's 5 years old. She needs friends. She needs to stay alive. Friends come later. Later is destroying her. She's withdrawing, stopping asking questions. That's not healthy. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I know this is hard, but Hawthorne hasn't gone to trial yet. He's still fighting, still has resources. Until he's actually convicted and in prison. He could drag this out for years. You said trials take time. Emma can't wait years. Then what do you want me to say? That it's safe? It's not. That you can risk exposure? You can't. Sarah's voice was sharp now. You hired me to keep your daughter safe. Let me do my job. Your job is keeping her physically safe. My job is keeping her whole. Right now, isolation is hurting her as much as Hawthorne ever could. That's a false equivalence, and you know it. Maybe. Probably. But Lena watched Emma sleeping in the next room and thought about Tyler and story time and the light in her daughter's eyes when she'd laughed. I'm taking her to the park on Saturday, she said. Lena, just once. We'll be careful. Wigs, different clothes, cash only. We'll stay in public, lots of witnesses. 2 hours maximum. Then back to the cabin. Sarah swore. Fine. But I'm sending someone. Backup you won't see, but who'll be there. And if anything feels wrong, anything at all, you abort immediately. Understand? Understood. Saturday came too fast and not fast enough. Lena dyed Emma's hair temporarily darker, dressed her in clothes from the Millbrook thrift store, added glasses Emma didn't need, made her daughter look different enough that casual observation wouldn't match her to any photos Hawthorne might have. She did the same for herself. Different hair, different style, posture adjusted to seem shorter, The kind of transformation she'd practiced 3 years ago when building Lena Carter's identity. They drove to the park. Sunshine, families everywhere, kids running and screaming with the casual violence of play. Tyler spotted Emma immediately, ran over with his parents following. "Emma, you came! Do you want to see the swings? They go really high." Emma looked at Lena, asking permission with her eyes. "Go ahead, I'll be right here." She watched Emma run off with Tyler, joining other kids at the playground. Watched her daughter climb and swing and play like being hunted by a pharmaceutical corporation was the furthest thing from reality. Tyler's parents introduced themselves, Mark and Jennifer, teachers both, friendly in that small-town way that felt genuine. They asked the usual questions. Lena gave carefully crafted answers, visiting family in the area, taking some time away from the city. Emma was homeschooled, easier with their schedule. They seemed to accept it. No reason not to. Lena was just another parent at a park, watching her kid play. Except she was also scanning the perimeter constantly, looking for faces that didn't fit, cars that lingered too long, any sign that safety was an illusion about to shatter. An hour in, Emma came running back. "Mama, Tyler asked if I can come to his birthday party next week. Can I please?" Mark and Jennifer smiled. "It's just a small thing at our house. Pizza and cake. You're both welcome." Lena wanted to say yes, wanted to give Emma this one normal thing, but a birthday party meant addresses and schedules and being in someone's home where she couldn't control the environment. "Can I let you know? We might have family commitments." "Of course." No pressure. Jennifer handed her a card with their names and phone number. Tyler doesn't make friends easily. It's nice to see him so excited about someone. After they left, Emma was quiet in the truck. "I can't go to the party, can I?" "Emma, it's okay. I know we have to be careful." But her voice was small, resigned. "I just wish I could be normal." "You are normal. This situation isn't. When will it be over?" "Soon." It was probably a lie, but it was the only answer Lena had. That night, the news broke. Adrian was testifying the next day, earlier than scheduled. Something about new evidence, expedited hearings, prosecutors pushing for momentum. Lena watched him on television the following afternoon. Emma was at the table coloring, oblivious to the importance of what was happening on the screen. Adrian looked different, older somehow, tired but resolute. He sat in front of Congress, because of course this had escalated to congressional hearings, and told the truth, all of it. How Hawthorne had been his mentor, how he trusted him with his medical care, how that trust had been weaponized into human experimentation, how his own brother had been complicit. He didn't spare himself, talked about his own blindness, his willingness to believe Hawthorne's lies because facing the truth meant facing his own mortality, took responsibility for not seeing the warning signs earlier. The committee members asked questions. Adrian answered with brutal honesty. Yes, his company had funded the research. No, he hadn't known the full extent. Yes, he should have investigated more thoroughly. No, that didn't excuse his failures. Then they asked about the victims. Adrian's jaw tightened. "I can't speak for all of them, but I can speak for myself. Dr. Hawthorne dosed me with experimental compounds without informed consent, used me as a test subject while pretending to treat my condition. When I discovered the truth, he escalated, tried to involve innocent people, including a child, in his research." "What child?" a senator asked. "I'm not at liberty to discuss specifics. The minor's identity is protected, but I can confirm that Dr. Hawthorne obtained genetic material from a child without parental consent. That material was intended for use in developing treatments he planned to patent and profit from." The room erupted, questions shouted over each other, cameras flashing. Adrian sat through it calmly, answering what he could, deflecting what would put Emma at risk. Then a congresswoman asked the question Lena had been dreading. "Mr. Voss, you mentioned a scientist, someone who helped you, who developed the compounds you're describing. Is this person available to testify?" Adrian looked directly at the camera, like he knew Lena was watching, like he was speaking specifically to her. "That scientist is the reason I'm alive. They developed a treatment that Hawthorne couldn't. They did it ethically, carefully, with my full informed consent." He paused. "They're also in protective custody because Hawthorne has made credible threats. I won't compromise their safety by revealing their identity." The committee has the authority. The committee can subpoena me all they want. I won't put someone's life at risk to satisfy curiosity. The hearing continued for another hour. By the end, Hawthorne's lawyers were visibly panicking. Adrian had provided documentation, recordings, evidence that corroborated everything. The case was airtight. Sarah called as soon as the hearing ended. "Did you watch?" "Every second." Adrian just painted a target on Hawthorne's back. The man's going to prison. No way around it now. How long until the trial? Could still be months. But the momentum shifted. Hawthorne's out of moves. Sarah paused. "Lena, this might actually be over soon." Soon. That word again. But this time it felt real. Like maybe, possibly, the nightmare was ending. "What do we do now?" Lena asked. "Wait. Stay hidden. Let the legal system do its job." Sarah's voice softened. "And start thinking about what comes after, because there will be an after. You and Emma get to have a life again." After the call, Lena sat in the cabin and tried to imagine it. A life where Emma could go to birthday parties, where Lena could work in a real lab, develop treatments that helped instead of harmed, where they weren't running or hiding but actually living. It seemed impossible, too good to be real. But Adrian had testified, had risked everything to tell the truth, had protected her and Emma even when it would have been easier not to. Maybe impossible things happened sometimes. Emma came over, crawled into Lena's lap, even though she was too big for it. "You look happy, Mama." "I am. A little bit. Why?" "Because I think things are going to get better. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon." Emma considered this. "Can I go to Tyler's birthday party when things get better?" "Yeah, sweetheart. When things get better, you can go to all the birthday parties you want." The promise hung between them like something fragile. Emma went back to her coloring, apparently satisfied, while Lena tried to believe her own words. That things would get better. That birthday parties and normal lives were actually possible. 3 days later, everything changed. Sarah called at 2 a.m. Lena jolted awake, already reaching for the satellite phone, heart hammering. "Hawthorne's dead," Sarah said without preamble. Lena's mind went blank, then raced. "What? How?" "Apparent suicide. Found him in his study an hour ago. Single gunshot, his own weapon. Left a note confessing to everything. The illegal trials, the kidnapping, falsifying research data. Even implicated several board members and investors who funded him." "You don't sound convinced it was suicide." "I'm not. Too convenient, too clean. Man like Hawthorne doesn't break that easily." Sarah's voice was tight. "But the evidence is there. Notes in his handwriting. No signs of forced entry. Security footage shows him alone all evening." "Could it have been faked?" "Maybe. Probably. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter. He's dead. The threat's gone. Whether he pulled the trigger himself or someone helped him along, the result's the same." Lena sat in the darkness, trying to process. Hawthorne had been the monster in their story. The thing they were running from. And now he was just gone. Erased. Problem solved by a bullet. What about his research? His facilities? FBI seized everything. Prosecutors are still building cases against his associates. But with Hawthorne dead and the confession, it's over, Lena. Actually over. Just like that. Just like that. Sarah paused. "You can come home. Both of you. We'll establish new identities, proper documentation, set you up somewhere safe. You won't be Dr. Lena Morrison anymore, but you won't have to hide either." Home. The word felt foreign. Lena looked around the cabin that had been their prison and sanctuary. Emma's drawings on the walls, the makeshift lab in the closet, the life they'd built from nothing because they had no other choice. "I need to think about it," Lena said. "What's to think about? The danger's gone." "Is it? You said yourself the suicide might be faked. If someone killed Hawthorne, that means there are still people invested in this. People who might want the research, want Emma." Sarah was quiet. "You're not wrong. But staying in that cabin indefinitely isn't living either." "No, it's not." Lena's throat was tight. "I'll call you tomorrow. Let me talk to Emma. Figure out what comes next." She didn't sleep after that. Just sat watching dawn break over the mountains, trying to untangle what she felt. Relief, obviously. Fear that this was too easy. Grief for the years Emma had lost. Anger at Hawthorne for dying before facing real justice. And underneath it all, something she didn't want to examine too closely. The knowledge that going home meant seeing Adrian again, meant deciding if their partnership was just crisis bonding or something that could survive peace. Emma woke up at her usual time, shuffled out, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Why are you up? Couldn't sleep. Bad dreams? Something like that. Lena pulled Emma onto her lap, even though her daughter was getting too big, all sharp elbows and long legs. Baby, I need to tell you something. The bad man who was looking for us, he's gone. He can't hurt us anymore. Emma went very still. Gone where? He died. Last night. Like Daddy died? Lena's chest tightened. Emma rarely mentioned her father, had been too young when he died to remember him clearly. Yeah, like Daddy. Emma was quiet, processing. Does that mean we can go home? We can go somewhere. I don't know if we can go back to our old apartment, but we don't have to hide anymore. Can I go to Tyler's birthday party? Of all the things to ask. But it made sense. Tyler's party had become the symbol of everything Emma couldn't have. Normal friendships, normal childhood, normal life. Yes, Lena said. You can go to the party. Emma hugged her tight, fierce, and sudden. I'm glad the bad man is gone. I'm glad he can't find us. Me too, baby. They spent the day in limbo. Lena tried to work but couldn't focus. Emma played, but without real enthusiasm, like she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. By evening, Lena couldn't take it anymore. She called Adrian. He answered on the first ring. Lena, I heard. Are you okay? I don't know. Are you? Honestly? I don't know either. He sounded exhausted. Part of me is relieved. He can't hurt anyone else, can't manipulate or experiment or destroy lives. But part of me wanted him to face trial. Wanted him to sit in a courtroom and hear every single thing he'd done read back to him. Sarah thinks it might not have been suicide. I know. She told me her theory. Adrian was quiet for a moment. There are people who had a lot to lose if Hawthorne testified. Investors, board members, politicians who took his money. Any one of them could have decided he was a liability. Does that bother you, that he might have been murdered? It should, but I'm too tired to care about justice for a man who had none for others. His voice softened. What are you going to do? Sarah said you can come back. I don't know what back even means. Our apartment's gone. My identity as Lena Carter is compromised. Emma's been out of school for months. Lena laughed bitterly. I have no idea how to build a normal life from this wreckage. Then don't build normal. Build better. Adrian paused. The research facility I told you about. The partnership. That offer still stands. More than stands. I need you, Lena. We're sitting on the potential to revolutionize neurological treatment, but I can't do it alone. I don't have your expertise. Adrian, I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other outside of crisis situations, but we work well together. And Emma, she could have a real life here. Good schools, stability, protection if she needs it. You both could. Lena closed her eyes. You're asking me to uproot us again. Move to Chicago, work for you. Build a life around research that almost destroyed us. I'm asking you to transform that research into something that saves lives instead. To be who you actually are, instead of hiding. His voice dropped. And yeah, maybe I'm also asking because I've gotten used to your voice in my ear. Used to knowing you're out there. Used to... He stopped. Never mind. That's not fair pressure. But Lena heard what he didn't say. Felt the pull of it. The connection forged in impossible circumstances that maybe, possibly, could become something real. Let me think about it, she said. Give me a few days. Take whatever time you need. I'll be here. After the call, Emma appeared in the doorway. Was that Adrian? Yes. Is he nice? I think so. Why? Emma shrugged. You smile different when you talk to him. Like you're happy, but also scared. Out of the mouths of children came the observations adults spent years avoiding. Lena pulled Emma close. What would you think about moving to Chicago? Starting over there? Would I have to hide? No. You could go to regular school, make friends, be yourself. Would you be happy? The question stopped Lena cold. When had she last thought about her own happiness? Everything had been about survival, about protecting Emma, about running from one crisis into another. I think I could be, she said honestly. If we were safe, if we could build something real, then let's do it. Emma said it like it was simple, like happiness was just a choice you made and followed through on. Maybe it was. Lena called Sarah the next morning. We want to come home to Chicago. Can you make that happen? Already working on it. New identities are ready. Passports, birth certificates, social security numbers, the whole package. Adrian's setting up housing, getting Emma enrolled in a private school with security protocols. You'll be Dr. Lena Morrison again. Officially, legally, no more hiding. Just like that? Just like that. FBI's cooperating since you're a witness. Prosecutors want you available for the trials against Hawthorne's associates. It all works out. Sarah paused. There's a car coming for you tomorrow. You'll fly back, get settled, start your new old life. Tomorrow. It was happening so fast. Lena looked around the cabin one last time. This place had been a cage and a refuge. She'd hated it and been grateful for it. Emma had grown here, adapted here, survived here. But it was time to leave. They packed that night. Not that there was much to pack. They'd arrived with almost nothing and were leaving with barely more. Emma carefully wrapped the drawings she'd made, insisting they were important. They had to come. These are my mountain memories, she explained. I want to remember. Even the hard parts? Especially those, so I know how strong I was. Lena's heart cracked and mended simultaneously. Her daughter was 5 years old and already understood resilience better than most adults. Ray showed up the next morning to drive them to the airfield. He'd brought supplies regularly, never asked questions, helped them stay invisible. Now he helped load their meager belongings into his truck with the same quiet efficiency. You heading back to the city? He asked. Yeah. Good. The girl needs more than mountains and isolation. He looked at Emma. You take care of your mama here? She's tougher than she looks, but everybody needs looking after sometimes. Emma nodded seriously. I will. They drove through Millbrook one last time, past the library where Emma had discovered Tyler, past the park where they'd had 2 hours of normal, past Ray's store with its weathered sign and familiar shelves. Emma pressed her face to the window, watching it all disappear. Can we come back sometime to visit? Maybe, Lena said. Someday. The flight back to Chicago was surreal. Sarah met them at the airport with a car and a security team that stayed invisible but present. They drove through the city as afternoon turned to evening, lights beginning to glow against the twilight. Emma stared out the window, taking it all in. I forgot how many people there are. Is it scary? A little, but also exciting. She turned to Lena. Where are we going? To our new home. Adrian helped set it up. I haven't seen it yet either. The address Sarah had given them was in Lincoln Park, a few blocks from her brownstone. The building was nice, but not ostentatious. Renovated gray stones with security, but not fortress levels of it. The apartment was on the 3rd floor, and when Sarah unlocked the door, Lena's breath caught. It was beautiful. Not fancy beautiful, but warm beautiful. 2 bedrooms, real furniture, a kitchen that wasn't from the 1970s, windows that let in actual light. And in Emma's room, someone had put up glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Emma stood in the doorway, staring. Are those like my old room? Just like your old room, Adrian said from behind them. Lena spun. He was standing in the hallway, looking better than she'd seen him since that first night at the dinner club. The tremor was minimal. His eyes were clear. He looked healthy, alive. You did this? Lena asked. Sarah helped. I remembered Emma mentioning stars in one of your calls. Thought it might help her feel at home. He crouched down to Emma's level. Hi, I'm Adrian. We talked on the phone a few times. Emma studied him with that disconcerting intensity kids had. You're the one helping Mama with science. That's right. And you made my stars. I did. Do you like them? Emma threw her arms around his neck, surprising everyone, including Adrian. Thank you. He hugged her back carefully, like he was afraid she'd break. When Emma ran off to explore her new room, Adrian stood meeting Lena's eyes. Too much? He asked. It's perfect. Her voice cracked. You didn't have to do all this. I wanted to. You've saved my life multiple times. Least I could do was make sure Emma had stars. Sarah cleared her throat. I'm going to step out. Let you three get settled. Lena, security brief tomorrow at 10. Adrian, stop hovering. She left, and it was just Lena and Adrian in the hallway of an apartment that felt more like home than anywhere had in years. How are you? Lena asked. Really? The inhibitor's working. I'm functional, thinking clearly, but it's still temporary. He held up his hands. Steady now, but for how long? We need to develop real treatment, which is why I'm hoping you'll say yes to the partnership. I'm saying yes, on one condition. Name it. This research, we do it right. Full ethics review. Informed consent. Transparent trials. No shortcuts. No compromises. If we're going to transform what Hawthorne started into something good, we do it better than he ever could have. Adrian smiled. I wouldn't have it any other way. They stood there for a moment, and Lena felt the weight of everything they'd been through. The dinner club where this started. The pharmaceutical plant. The cabin. All the fear and running and desperate decisions that had led to this apartment, this moment, this chance at something different. I should let you settle in, Adrian said finally. But before I go, the lab's ready whenever you are. Fully equipped, completely secure. Your name's on the door. My name? Morrison Neurological Research Center. Has a nice ring to it. Lena's throat went tight. You named it after me. You're the genius behind the science. I'm just providing resources and looking pretty for press conferences. He headed for the door, then turned back. There's one more thing. In Emma's room. Small donation. Hope it's okay. After he left, Lena went to check. Emma was already in bed, exhausted from travel and emotion and too much change too fast. But next to her bed, curled up on a cushion, was a golden retriever puppy with a note attached to its collar. His name is Biscuit. Sarah says every kid who's been through what Emma has deserves a friend who doesn't ask questions. He's house-trained, gentle, and comes with a lifetime supply of dog food courtesy of Voss Industries. Emma was asleep, but her hand rested on the puppy's head. Biscuit's tail wagged slowly, like he understood his job was to be exactly what this little girl needed. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, watching her daughter sleep in her new room, with stars on the ceiling and a dog at her feet, and let herself cry for the first time in 3 years, not from fear or grief, but from something that felt dangerously close to hope. The next weeks were chaos of a different kind. Emma started school, a private academy with small classes and security that knew to be discreet. She made friends slowly, cautiously, like someone who'd learned that good things could be taken away. Tyler's family had moved to Chicago for his father's job, which felt like the kind of cosmic coincidence that shouldn't happen, but did. The boys picked up their friendship like no time had passed. Lena threw herself into work. The lab Adrian had built was everything she'd dreamed of and nothing she'd expected to have again. She hired a small team, researchers who'd been burned by Hawthorne's methods and wanted to do better. They worked long hours, ran careful trials, built protocols that prioritized ethics as much as results. Adrian was there most days, sometimes working, sometimes just watching. The inhibitor kept him stable, but they both knew it was a temporary fix. They were racing against his deterioration, trying to develop sustainable treatment before his body adapted to the stopgap. How long do I have, Biscuit? He asked one evening, 3 months into their work. Lena looked up from her microscope. With the inhibitor, 6 months, maybe 8. After that, we'd need to adjust the formula. Eventually, even that won't work. And the real treatment, where are we? Close. We've successfully synthesized the stabilization factor using Emma's genetic profile as a template, not her actual genetic material, just the pattern. Tested it on tissue samples with promising results. But human trials, she shook her head. That's years away. FDA approval, safety testing, the whole gauntlet. What if I volunteer, sign all the waivers, accept all the risks, use me as the first trial? Adrian, I'm dying anyway. This way my death might actually mean something, might prove the treatment works or reveal what needs to change. He leaned against the lab bench. I'm not being noble. I'm being selfish. I want to live, Lena, and I want the work we're doing to matter. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him there were other options, safer paths. But they both knew the truth. Time was running out, and conventional timelines meant Adrian wouldn't survive to see the treatment perfected. Let me think about it, she said. Run projections, analyze risk factors. If we're going to do this, we do it smart. A week later, she had an answer. I can synthesize a modified treatment. It's experimental, unproven, possibly dangerous. But the theoretical modeling suggests it could work. What's the catch? It's permanent. Once we introduce it to your system, there's no going back. If it works, you're cured. If it doesn't, she didn't finish. How bad is the doesn't work scenario? Cascading neural failure, seizures, you'd have hours, maybe less. Lena met his eyes. I can't guarantee this won't kill you, but I can guarantee doing nothing will kill you, just slower. Adrian nodded slowly. When can we start? You're sure? We can wait? Run more simulations. Lena, I've been dying in slow motion for 4 years. Waiting just means more time spent afraid. I'm tired of being afraid. They scheduled the procedure for the following week. Lena worked 18-hour days, triple-checking formulas, running scenarios, building contingencies. Sarah arranged for medical support, doctors who wouldn't ask questions, equipment that wasn't technically approved for this use. Emma noticed something was wrong. Why do you look so worried, Mama? Just work stuff. Is Adrian sick again? No point lying. Emma was too perceptive. Yes, but I'm trying to help him. Will it work? I hope so. Emma hugged her tight. You're really good at science. I bet it'll work. The faith of children. Lena wished she shared it. The night before the procedure, Adrian came to dinner. Lena had cooked, badly, but with effort. Emma entertained them with stories about school, about Biscuit's adventures, about everything except the elephant in the room. After Emma went to bed, Adrian and Lena sat on the couch with wine. Neither of them was really drinking. I'm scared, Adrian admitted. Not of dying, I've made peace with that, but of... He stopped. Started again. Of not getting to see what comes next. The research. Emma, growing up. Whatever this is between us. Adrian, let me finish. We've been dancing around this for months. The partnership that's more than professional. The conversations that go too long. The way we look at each other when we think no one's watching. He turned to face her. I care about you, Lena. Maybe I'm an idiot for saying this the night before I might die. But I care about you, and Emma, and I want the chance to see where this goes. Lena's chest felt too tight. You're not an idiot. You're... She struggled for words. You're someone who showed up when I needed help and never asked for anything in return. Who gave my daughter stars and a dog. Who trusted me with your life when you had no reason to. Is that a nice way of saying you care about me too? It's a terrified way of saying I do, because caring about people means losing them. My husband died. My daughter was almost taken. Everyone I've let matter has ended up hurt. Then I'm in good company, Adrian smiled. We're both damaged goods, Lena. Might as well be damaged together. She kissed him. Just once, soft and careful, like testing whether good things were allowed. He kissed back, and for a moment the fear receded. Just a moment. Then reality crashed back. Don't die tomorrow, she whispered against his mouth. I'll try my best. The procedure took 6 hours. Lena administered the treatment herself, monitoring every reaction, every neural pathway, every indication that Adrian's body was accepting or rejecting the compound. Sarah watched from the observation room with Emma, who'd insisted on being there despite Lena's protests. He's my friend too, Emma had said. I want to know he's okay. For the first hour, nothing happened. Adrian lay on the hospital bed, hooked to monitors, while the treatment circulated through his system. Lena tracked the progress, waiting for something, improvement or catastrophe. Hour 2, his vitals spiked, temperature rising, heart rate accelerating. This was it, the moment where the treatment either took hold or failed. Lena, Adrian gasped, something's happening. I know, try to stay calm, your body's fighting the compound. That's normal. Doesn't feel normal. Feels like... He convulsed, back arching off the bed. Lena grabbed emergency medications, prepared to counteract the treatment if things went wrong. But even as she moved, she watched the monitors. Neural activity was spiking, yes, but in patterns. Organized patterns. The compound was integrating, restructuring, healing. It was working. Adrian's convulsions stopped. His breathing steadied. Vitals normalized to levels Lena hadn't seen in all the months she'd known him. When he opened his eyes, they were clear, focused, present in a way they hadn't been before. "How do you feel?" she asked. He sat up slowly, testing his body, flexed his hands, no tremor, stood, steady, balanced. "I feel," he laughed, the sound breaking. "I feel normal. Actually normal. Like my brain is mine again." Lena ran scans immediately. Imaging showed what the vitals had suggested. The neuraxon damage was reversing, new neural pathways forming correctly. The treatment wasn't just stopping the deterioration, it was healing it. Sarah's voice came through the intercom. "That's good news, right? The not seizing part?" "That's very good news," Lena confirmed, not taking her eyes off the monitors. "He's stable. Actually stable." Emma's face appeared in the window, pressed against the glass. "Is Adrian better?" Adrian walked to the window, steady on his feet, and gave her a thumbs up. Emma cheered, jumping up and down. The following hours were observation, making sure the improvement held, running additional tests. By evening, it was clear the treatment had worked. Adrian Voss was going to live. He found Lena in the lab, staring at data like she couldn't quite believe it was real. "Thank you," he said simply. "Thank the science. Thank your willingness to be a guinea pig. Thank—" He kissed her. Longer this time, less careful, like someone who'd just been given a future and intended to use it. "Thank you," he said again when they broke apart, "for giving me my life back, for taking the risk when you didn't have to, for—" He gestured around the lab. "For all of this. We're partners. That's what partners do." "Is that all we are? Partners?" Lena thought about the question, about the months of working together, supporting each other, building something neither could have created alone. About Emma asking if Adrian could come to her school play. About the way her apartment felt empty when he wasn't there. "No," she said honestly. "That's not all we are. But I don't know what we are yet, and I'm okay with that. With figuring it out as we go. I can work with that." The trials against Hawthorne's associates dragged on for another 8 months. Lena testified, provided evidence, watched powerful people squirm under scrutiny. Some were convicted, some walked free on technicalities. Justice was messier than she'd hoped and cleaner than she'd feared. David Voss cut a deal. Testimony against the board members in exchange for reduced charges. He'd never walk completely free, but he wouldn't spend his life in prison either. Adrian visited him once, in the hospital where he was recovering. Lena didn't ask what they talked about. Some wounds were too deep for outsiders. The research continued, with Hawthorne's methodology exposed and discredited. Lena and Adrian were free to publish their findings properly. They presented at conferences, submitted papers to peer review, opened their protocols to scrutiny. The scientific community was skeptical at first. Anything connected to Hawthorne carried taint. But the data spoke for itself. The treatment worked, not just for Adrian, but in expanded trials with volunteer patients who had nothing left to lose. Neurological conditions that had been death sentences became manageable, curable even. A year after leaving the cabin, Lena stood in front of a packed auditorium presenting their findings. Emma sat in the front row with Sarah and Adrian, watching her mother explain complex science to people who actually listened. Afterward, a journalist asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Dr. Morrison, you disappeared for 3 years. Hawthorne claimed you stole research. Now you're here, presenting treatments based on that same research. How do you reconcile that?" Lena looked at the journalist, at the cameras, at the audience waiting for her answer. "I don't reconcile it. I learned from it. The research I developed was weaponized by people who valued progress over ethics. I tried to destroy it, but destruction isn't the answer. Transformation is. Taking what was meant to harm and rebuilding it into something that heals. That's how you reconcile past mistakes." "And your daughter?" Hawthorne's notes reference genetic material from a minor. "My daughter is off limits. She's a child who deserves privacy and a normal life. She contributed nothing to this research except existing, and I'll spend the rest of my career making sure no other child is ever exploited the way Hawthorne tried to exploit her." The interview ended. Emma ran up, proud and excited. "You were on camera, Mama. Everyone was watching." "Did I do okay?" "You were perfect, like a real scientist." I am a real scientist, baby. I know, but now everyone else knows too. That night, Adrian cooked dinner at his place, a townhouse he'd bought after selling the company to focus on research full-time. Emma played with Biscuit in the yard while Lena and Adrian worked in the kitchen with the comfortable silence of people who'd learned each other's rhythms. I have a proposition, Adrian said, stirring pasta that was definitely going to be overcooked. Another one? The last time you had a proposition, I ended up testifying before Congress. This one's less dramatic, I hope. He turned off the stove, faced her. Move in with me, you and Emma both. We're here most nights anyway. Emma's school is closer to this neighborhood, and He stopped, started again. I want to wake up next to you. Want to be part of Emma's daily life, not just the fun weekends. Want to build something real instead of dancing around it. Lena's heart jumped. Adrian, that's too fast, I know, but we've done everything backwards already. Crisis first, trust after, feelings somewhere in the middle. Why not skip the slow buildup and just... He gestured helplessly. Be together. Actually together. What does Emma think? I already asked her. She said yes, but only if she gets to paint her room purple and we install a rope swing in the backyard. You asked my daughter before asking me? Seemed diplomatic. She's the one who'd be moving too. Lena wanted to list all the reasons this was complicated. They'd known each other barely a year. Had spent most of that year in crisis mode. Moving in together was serious, relationship defining, the kind of thing people did after long courtships and careful consideration. But they'd skipped all those steps already, had built a life together in the spaces between emergencies, had learned to trust when trust was survival, had become a family without either of them quite noticing when it happened. Okay, she said. Okay, you'll think about it? Okay, we'll move in, on 2 conditions. Name them. Emma gets her purple room and rope swing, and you promise that if this doesn't work, if we realize we were better as partners than as whatever this is, we figure it out like adults. No drama, no burning everything down. Deal. Adrian kissed her, soft and sure. Though for the record, I'm not worried about it not working. Confident. Realistic. We've survived kidnapping, congressional hearings, and my brother trying to kill you. I think we can handle cohabitation. They moved in 3 weeks later. Emma's room was painted the most aggressive shade of purple Lena had ever seen. The rope swing got installed by a contractor who looked concerned about liability. Biscuit decided the entire house was his domain and acted accordingly. It was messy and chaotic, and nothing like the quiet life Lena had imagined when she first disappeared. But it was real. Theirs. Built from the wreckage of everything that had tried to destroy them. 6 months after moving in, Adrian proposed. Not with fanfare or dramatic gestures, just at breakfast, while Emma was explaining why Biscuit deserved his own chair at the table. Marry me, he said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Lena stared. Emma stopped mid-sentence about dog furniture rights. What? Lena managed. Marry me. Make this official. Give Emma the stable family she deserves. Give us... He reached across the table, took her hand. Give us the future we both almost didn't have. Emma was vibrating with excitement. Can I be in the wedding? Can Biscuit? Can we have cake? Emma, hold on. Lena looked at Adrian, at his steady eyes and certain smile. You're serious? Completely. I know we've done everything out of order, but we're good at that. And I love you. Love Emma. Love the life we've built. Why not make it permanent? Because marriage is... Lena stopped. Started again. Because it's complicated and legal, and what if it works? What if we get to be happy? Adrian squeezed her hand. I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for real. For choosing each other, every day, on purpose. Emma was watching her, hope written across her face. Lena thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago. Invisible. Alone. Running from everything that mattered. Then thought about who she was now. A scientist doing meaningful work. A mother raising a daughter who knew her own strength. A partner who'd found someone worth building with. Yes, she said, on one condition. Another condition? You're consistent, I'll give you that. Emma gets to plan the whole thing. Dress, cake, flowers, venue, all of it. Emma shrieked, already pulling out paper to start lists. Adrian laughed. Deal. Though for the record, we're going to end up with a purple wedding. I'm counting on it. They got married 4 months later in a small ceremony at Sarah's place, the brownstone where this had all really started, where Emma had first been kept safe. Emma wore a purple dress that clashed magnificently with the lavender she'd chosen for Lena. Biscuit wore a bow tie. Ray made the drive from Millbrook to give Lena away, grumbling about city traffic, but secretly pleased to be included. The guest list was small. Sarah, obviously. Adrian's security team, who'd become friends. Lena's research staff. Tyler and his parents. Emma's teacher. People who'd helped them survive and rebuild. Marcus and Jenkins sent flowers with a note apologizing for everything. Lena threw the flowers away but kept the note. Forgiveness was complicated, but acknowledgement was a start. David wasn't invited, wouldn't have come anyway. Some betrayals ran too deep for healing. When it came time for vows, Adrian went first. Lena, you saved my life before we even knew each other's names. You've been saving it ever since. I promise to be worthy of that gift, to support your work, protect your daughter, and love you, even when you're being stubborn about safety protocols. Lena laughed through tears. Adrian, you gave me back myself. The scientist I thought I'd lost, the life I thought was over. You gave Emma stars and a dog and stability when we had nothing. I promise to keep you alive, annoying you with safety protocols, and choosing this life with you, every single day. They kissed. Emma cheered. Biscuit barked. Sarah wiped away tears she'd deny later. The reception was in Adrian's backyard, with Emma's purple decorations and too much cake and the kind of joy that only comes from surviving something terrible together. As the sun set, Lena found herself standing apart from the party, watching. Emma was teaching Tyler how to properly push Biscuit on the rope swing, a disaster waiting to happen but too joyful to stop. Adrian was talking with Ray, probably discussing science neither of them fully understood but both appreciated. Sarah joined her. You did good, kid. We all did good. True, but you... Sarah gestured around. You went from running to building. That's not easy. Had good help. Take the compliment. Sarah clinked her champagne glass against Lena's. To second chances, and third ones, and however many it takes, to surviving long enough to deserve them. They drank. Emma called for Lena to watch Biscuit's swing performance. Adrian caught her eye across the yard, smiled like she was the only person in the world. Lena thought about the invisible woman who'd served wine at a dinner club 18 months ago, who'd seen poison and made a choice, who'd dropped a bottle and changed everything. That woman was gone. In her place was Dr. Lena Morrison, scientist, mother, wife. Someone who'd stopped running and started fighting, who'd transformed pain into purpose and fear into something that looked remarkably like happiness. The research continued. They published breakthrough treatments, changed protocols for neurological care, trained a new generation of researchers in ethics-first methodology. Emma grew up surrounded by science and love, became the kind of kid who asked hard questions and accepted complex answers. Adrian stayed healthy. The treatment held. They synthesized improved versions, expanded trials, helped thousands of patients who'd been told their conditions were hopeless. Sometimes Lena thought about Hawthorne, about what he could have accomplished if he'd chosen differently, if he'd valued people over progress, ethics over ambition. But those thoughts came less frequently as time passed. Hawthorne was a cautionary tale, not a continuing threat. David sent a letter from prison 3 years into his sentence. It wasn't quite an apology, more an acknowledgement that he'd made choices and was living with consequences. Adrian wrote back once. Lena didn't ask what he said. On Emma's 8th birthday, they threw a party with every kid from her class, chaos that involved face painting, a bouncy castle, and Biscuit eating half the cake. Emma stood on a chair to make a wish, surrounded by friends, completely unaware of how miraculous that normal moment was. Later, after the guests left and Emma was asleep with frosting in her hair, Adrian and Lena sat on the porch with wine. She doesn't remember the cabin, Adrian said. I asked her once. She remembers it like a vacation, not a hiding place. Good. She shouldn't have to carry that. Lena leaned against him. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't dropped that bottle. If I'd just let you drink the wine. You'd have stayed invisible. Emma would have been taken. Hawthorne would still be operating. Adrian kissed the top of her head. One decision changed everything. Scared the hell out of me at the time. The best decisions usually do. They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies in the yard, listening to the distant sounds of the city. Emma was safe. Adrian was healthy. The research was helping people. Their life was messy and complicated and built on the ruins of what they'd almost lost. It was perfect. Not perfect in the fairy tale sense. There were still hard days and difficult choices and moments where the past crept back in shadows. But perfect in the way real things were perfect. Earned, fought for, worth everything it took to get there. "I love you," Lena said. "I love you too." Adrian pulled her closer. "Thanks for saving my life. Thanks for giving me a reason to." Inside, Emma stirred, probably dreaming of cake and friends and the rope swing she'd begged for years ago. Biscuit was at the foot of her bed, keeping watch. The lab would be waiting tomorrow with new problems to solve and treatments to refine. But tonight was for this. For the family they'd built from crisis and choice and stubborn refusal to let fear win. Lena thought about the woman she'd been, hiding, running, afraid of being seen. Thought about what she'd told Emma once, about being scared meaning you were about to do something important. She'd been right. Being scared had led to being brave, and being brave had led to being here. Home. Safe. Loved. In the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.